welcome to episode 137 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We are using the magazine Zapped 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zapped 64 itself. This week, we start our look at December 1989 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 56 of Zapped 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles and albums chart that month. Graham, the weather outside may indeed have been frightful, but were the games in any way delightful?
In this penultimate December 1989 episode that is positively bulging like a bodybuilder after a particularly aggressive pump, we tackle the bendy highways of the USA as we race at breakneck speed from coast to coast in our oversized supercar in turbo outrun, form some geometric shapes and attempt to answer impossible sports questions in the angular sporting triangles, and then we take Professor Chicken and his bird friend Dr. Quack on a murderous rampage through some moon bases in the decidedly odd Xenophobe. It's hard to believe that there is only one more episode for December 1989. It really isn't long now. Before that, we round off this episode with a look across another arcade conversion, this time something altogether more military in the explosive Cabal, or Cabal, or Cabal, depends how you want to say it really. We explore the naff licensed world of yet another dog egg with the utterly mindless Top Gun, and then settle into some good old-fashioned platform leaping in the melancholy and definitely British Mario-like world of Terry's Big Adventure. There are some angry words spoken in this episode. Can you guess which game has earned the wrath of Zapped to the Past? Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Well, we will find out. Yes, we shall. Yeah, we're back. If we sound a bit rusty, it's because we've been off for 4 weeks. Well, not off, but we've been away. The behind the scenes stuff. There's been Christmas. There's been COVID. There's been work holidays, work trips. Yeah, should we say work trips? Yeah. It's all kind of combined to sort of put us on the back foot a little bit. So there you go. So we've been off, and so it feels like forever since we've done this. It does.
But now we're back. We're back now.
We're back, and I feel like I'm just getting a spray of WD-40 to grease those podcasting wheels, and I reckon we'll be back in. But the first thing we need to do, Graham, because it is a new month, you know what that means, don't you?
I'd like to think it's something to do with
the cover.
Flavours of grapes. Oh, the cover. Okay. Did I get that wrong? Okay.
You really did. I know you and your flavours of grapes. Grape flavour.
Green.
Kind of
green. Well, you'd be surprised. There are many flavours of grapes. Not really. I don't know. I'm not a great connoisseur.
No. Let's have a look at this cover. It is the Christmas cover. Graham's Zapped 64 C64 Amiga is number one for CBM 64, but not Amiga still.
Yes, there's a combination of factors in this which make it a little bit unusual. Kind of a fearful-looking Father Christmas, snow on the logo. I'd always like snow on a Christmas logo. You don't know how hard it was to resist putting snow on our Christmas Cracker episode logo. I had to physically fight with myself. No, it's just because I like it, but not when I do it. Always just looks like, honestly, the way I did try it, and it just looked like a teenager had got a bit overexcited over the logo. I was like, no, we're not. The world's not ready for that. Exactly.
I don't want to think about that. Anyway, and
exactly.
Speaking of that kind of things, Santa split his sack.
Yes, he's ruptured his sack, and out of it spills trucks and cars.
Yeah, it's a weird bunch of presents to get.
It is.
But it's talking about the games, isn't it? Because there's Turbo Outrun, an exclusive review. I wonder if that means he gets a good grade.
Well, the funny thing there is, of course, that it's at least the cover is the game that's in the issue, which, hasn't been always, has it, recently?
Yeah. That is true. And there's obviously Stunt Car Racer as well we've got this month.
Yes, that's there as well.
Cabal, Interface, Myth.
Cabal.
Cable, yeah. Cable.
I feel like the Myth, because it's the usual image to the sort of top right, text on the bottom corner, and then sort of splattered around. And it's gone back. We thought that they'd gone on like a bit of a text reduction, and it kind of worked, even though the text was boring. Now they've just kind of gone back to the usual. So just random words thrown at the bloody image. It's obviously that's got the car from Turbo Outrun and a scantily clad bikini wearer going through the snow, I guess. With it being Christmas. But where's this Myth System 3? It's dead unexciting.
Could it be? I don't want to sound like Chandler sort of thing, but could it be less exciting? But how could it be more exciting?
Well, they've just put a barcode in it. Nothing makes anything less spectacular or interesting than a barcode.
Well, that's true. We were talking about barcodes the other day when we had to learn about barcode readers in computer studies at school. That was a thrilling couple of lessons.
Yeah, that was was the thing of the future, wasn't it? Remember them saying they'll be really important, and they are important actually, but not as important as they made them out to be.
No, they didn't. No. There's also sackfuls of Xmas goodies to be won.
Yeah, they couldn't be bothered to say what they were, could they? So.
No, and an Xmas day at the arcades.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about Xmas on the front cover.
Well, it's on there twice. Sackfuls of Xmas goodies and Xmas day at the arcades. Say Christmas.
Yeah, just be bold. Commit. Commit.
Grasp the nettle by the thorn and say Christmas. But I don't. Does Santa to you look like he's like a DJ mixing?
Yeah, well, his hands are odd, aren't they? He's got very grippy hands for a Father Christmas. He looks like he's stealing that sack more than delivering presents with it.
There's something shady about him, isn't there? It's not Slim Shady. It's Santa Shady. Shady Santa.
It's well drawn, of course. It's the usual quality, but it
is. I mean, it's an okay cover. It's quite good. I like the sack and everything spilling out of it. I think that's quite good, and all the cars and stuff. And it's a bit action packed and stuff, but it's all right. It's better than some of the covers we've seen recently, and at least it's thematically correct. And like you said, it's got the game on the cover. So
yes, it has got the Ferrari from Turbo Outrun on there. So.
Yeah, and it's massive, just like it is in the game, if you don't want a spoiler. But we'll get to that in a
bit. It is. They are big cars, but, small screens, big cars. It's not good, that.
So that's the American documentary you don't want to watch. Small screens, big cars, tonight on CBS, 8 o'clock, Eastern.
True. That's very true.
There we go. That's the cover. We've done our due diligence, and we have looked at the cover. We've got games this week, 6. In fact, 6 games up from the last few weeks. Shall we get into them?
Seems like a good idea to me.
Seems like an idea. Right, let's get into our first game then. It's the cover game. It's over to you, Graham. It is indeed Turbo Outrun.
This is a bit of a whopper, isn't it? 97% this got. Gold medal. Mm-hmm. Shiny, precious gold. Gold! Precious gold. Gold! Gold! Always believe in you. No, that's what it is.
It's true. It's true.
It's true. It's so true. Oh, it's true. It's true. $9.99 this was. I'm guessing a format of some other. I don't suppose that's disc. It's US gold. That's bound to be tape. But who knows? It's US gold. Publisher was US gold. US gold medal. They should be called for this.
Hey.
Copyright Sega, of course. Of course it's Sega, isn't it? Developer was Probe Software. Are you being probed? But yeah, if you are when you play this. Coder was Mark. Now I kept because his name is Mark W.J. Kelly, and I've been saying Mark Jelly for all this time. And I feel really stupid. His name's Mark Kelly. Not Mark Jelly.
You are, that's why. But there you go.
So anyway, he did the code for Marauder, Mr. Helly, and soon, and some time to come, Golden Axe.
Yeah, Mr. Helly was good. Marauder was Marauder wasn't bad.
Exactly. Graphics here are by Steve Crow, the Crow Man. He strikes with graphics. He did Savage and Synapse. They weren't bad either. All said and done for graphics.
Yeah.
And the musician here is Jeroen Tell. Now, he's done loads of stuff. He's done loads of Cybernoid 2, loads of stuff. I mean, there's more to it than that. Just that for some reason, they always are the ones that come to mind out of his, but loads of them. So Turbo Outrun then, massive arcade this. In Japan, Game Machine listed Turbo Outrun on their March the 15th, 1989 issue as being, drumroll, the third most successful upright cockpit arcade unit of the month. What an odd award.
That's a niche category.
Can you imagine what the trophy looks like? He'd be like, cockpit award.
Upright cockpit as well.
Congratulations, here's your upright cockpit award. We wanted the other award, not that one. Anyway, that's what it was. But third most successful struck me on. But this was a time when there was a lot of big showcase arcades. And so, Turbo Outrun was one of those, but there's other things to think about. And by the way, just as an aside, the soundtrack for the C64 game won Best Music on an 8-bit computer in 1989 at the European Computer Trade Show. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Well, neither did Jerome Tell when he was awarded, because the US Gold didn't think to tell him or invite him.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so he never knew he won that award till years later. So, and that's his comment, I think, on I think it might be on Lemon. It's his comment on it saying, never even told me I won that. The fools, which, isn't very nice, is it? Anyway, classic. So, Back to the arcades we go then, Adrian. And this time we face another massive conversion. Another one. This time, as I've said, Sega's official arcade follow-up to their smash hit Outrun. This time in the shape of Turbo Outrun. Ooh. Now, remember, this potentially is one of Yu Suzuki's games. Outrun was. Now, I don't know that he was specifically involved in Turbo Outrun to any greater or lesser degree, although it's Outrun, so I imagine he's got something to do with it. But he's probably had oversight of some things. But Yu Suzuki games, famous Sega arcades, aren't they, all of them? Now, get this. The arcade largely ran on the same Sega Super Scalar hardware, only this one had a whole bunch of gimmicks in it, a whole bunch of stuff. It was a real humdinger. It's a mighty handy item. So it's got a whole bunch of graphic processing craziness added, including a video board GPU. Get this, with 6 additional CPUs running at an eye-watering 25 megahertz, and a main board GPU with 5 CPUs running at 40 megahertz. Not to mention the twin FPGA, that's field programmable gate arrays, custom tile map and sprite generators, the twin 24-bit 24-channel sound chips, and the Yamaha FM Synthesis 8-channel audio chip, and dual 68,000 CPUs. That is a whole lot of meatballs packed into one particular bit of technology.
That's quite a lot. Yeah,
that's a whopper. That is crazy. That is crazy.
Yep.
All packed into a game so you can just race stuff. Mad.
Yeah.
So take all of that goodness, all of that fruity basket, that big massive fruit basket, and let's try and sort of scramble that down into the humble beige bread bin with its 64K, 3 channels, and its cozy 1 megahertz CPU. Looks like a kind of a crazy task to try that, doesn't it? Anyway, we know great things can be achieved, as Power Drift proved last time. So we're not saying it's going to be, we know it's not going to be at the same rate of power as a 25 megahertz, 40 megahertz, whatever the hell that even is, monster. But let's remember that, firstly, though, Power Drift proved last time that, things can be good on the C64 if you take your time to think about it. But this is US Gold, not Activision, so And then secondly, the benchmark for Outrun conversions isn't really crazy good on the C64 right now. So the benchmark's pretty low. So it's not like you have to do something really hard. I mean, okay, that maybe what was achieved before in the context of it was a 17-year-old guy and his dad having a massive argument, by the sound of it. But at the same time, and they did an okay job, and that's fair play. 17 years old is a lot of pressure, and and it turned out okay, I suppose, for what it was. But it wasn't without its issues, was it, the original Outrun? So it's not like this game's got some ground to catch up on. You can't just turn out another one of them. The nature of the challenge has altered somewhat from Outrun, though. And this is arcade again. But the central notion is the same. So the challenge has changed a bit. So you race from A to B across bumpy and bendy USA roads and highways within specified times to hit checkpoints and continue. Avoid other cars, crashing. That's the kind of deal, isn't it? In this game, there are some slight variations to the way things work. The race is now across the whole USA, east to west coast. In fact, from New York to Los Angeles in 16 stages. We lose the ability to choose our path, which was in the Outrun arcade, although that wasn't actually in the C64 version anyway, so you can't miss what you never had. We also have bad weather to contend with on some stages, some night driving, and we even have a nemesis, as we are this time racing against, or at least competing in some manner, against someone driving a Porsche 959. Spit on that. Who wants one of them?
Not me. Actually, I do. I like Porsches.
Yeah, they're very nice cars. Yeah, lovely. Really nice. Yeah. We're also not driving the same Ferrari. Previously, we were in a Ferrari that almost resembled a Testarossa Coupe, a car which does not exist. This time, we're in a Ferrari F40 Coupe, a car which doesn't actually exist and never has. But it looks the part in the arcade. Weird. It's made for a good-shaped cabinet, didn't it? Oddly, the original Outrun on the C64 had more of a F40-like appearance anyway. Maybe they saw the future. We'll never know. We'll never know. It was just a great big blocky bastard, wasn't it, that car? Anyway. Whatever. Some other important extras that exist. There is, of course, a turbo button, hence the name Turbo Outrun, which greatly accelerates the vehicle, of course, because that's what happens when you press a turbo button, isn't it? Should do. My old PC used to have a turbo button on it. Never knew what it really did. Never sure whether it speeded up or slowed it down. It was impossible to know. It was just rubbish. Anyway, so also there's periodic stops along the route of the race where you can choose vehicle enhancements to help you in the preceding stages. That's pretty neat. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, there was also loud music and lots of it. Speech, your girlfriend by your side, and a lot of razzmatazz and boom shang-a-lang. You could hear the Turbo Outrun arcade a mile away when it was in the arcades, and it is very good fun, pretty pricey, of course. But I was, as I've testified to many of these driving games, utterly crap at Turbo Outrun. Just a tragedy, really. Never been able to play it very well, even in the arcade, even for free at the arcade club. I was rubbish. When you're rubbish at a free arcade, that's not a good thing, is it? Anyway, I'm still rubbish at these. I did try and have a go at the arcade club, and what you are instantly hit with when you play Turbo Outrun in the arcade is all of the Turbo Outrun arcadeisms, all of the big boom, bang-a-lang shout. It kind of shouts at you. It's a very big thing. So that's quite interesting. So the C64 version then, first impressions, pretty good, I have to say. Okay. Some confident audio and visual presentation. Confident's a good word. I played the CRT version. So cartridge version, not CRT. Why did I put CRT? It's not a CRT. That'd be TV, wouldn't it?
I think they're called CRT version. I think they are called CRTs.
Yeah, well, that's what I played. I played the cartridge version, so loading times wouldn't be an issue. But for the original, they were a little bit of a crippling factor, as been indicated by a fair few people. I tried the disc version as well. It's hard to say how disruptive they would be because I'm still on an emulator. But I think what I'd say is Chris Butler had identified when he was going to make Power Drift or convert Power Drift that he didn't want to have loading times because it kind of kills the game's mojo. And I think he's right a little bit about that. This is Turbo Outrun, and loading in a game like Turbo Outrun kind of makes you go, So it does. Anyway, I had the cartridge version, and that's the version I've played. I guess you'd call that the optimum version, really, isn't it? The fully optimum. And it's also optimized and also bug fixed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And now that's the version I played anyway. And so you can go and play the non-bug fixed disc loady version if you want. It's the same game underneath the hood, really, once you get down to it. So rowdy loading screen, and music. I thought the music's good. It's quite nice looking, that part of it, the beginning bit. You can't really argue with the way into this game. Moves on to the title screen music, which is actually really nice. Now, I have to say, unusually, it's a fairly simple sort of title screen, Outrun at the top, this kind of nice droppy sort of text effect with some messaging and some stuff like that. But the music and the way it plays itself and the way it sort of lands, it's got like da 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 da, and it's just got a nice vibe. It's got a really good vibe to it.
It is good.
So it's got this nice powwow vibe. And I quite like that. Graphics up to this point are all okay, I guess, as well, of the arcade. Nicely shaded graphics, okay. You slam the fire button when you're at this point and you'll be on the selector for manual or automatic. That's a nice touch because it's in there. It's in there. Okay, that's good. I only played automatic. I'm not a psycho. And there's only 2 gears anyway. I think again it's high and low again, so it's like okay. So I just went for automatic.
It's the Price is Right gear changing, isn't it?
Higher, lower, isn't it a bit? Anyway, so again that's all from the arcade, and it also looked kind of the part, and it had like the music, and it's all looking good so far. Loading happens between all of this on the disc version though. Loading when it's slowing, and it's not slow, super slow. It's not like slow. It's just slow enough, isn't it? And that's the pain.
Yeah,
It's just too slow. It's just not. In a game like Turbo Outrun, I expect the word turbo to be kind of a thing. Anyway, the game starts and you're presented with a reasonable approximation of the arcade. Blue skies with a hint of cloud. Cityscape in the background. Grey highways like roads that bend, bump and contort with a variety of details that zoom past you and to the left and to the right. All the kind of standard stuff we've seen before. The upper part has your score, remaining time and stage. At the bottom, your rev counter, speedometer, turbo indication, and gear stick. Now, you can press your turbo a few times, but it will overheat eventually, so you can only do it so often. There's also kind of these are kind of a miniature versions of those things, though. So when I say rev counter, speedometer, and the gear stick made me laugh out loud when I saw it, because it's kind of like, it's like a tiny little stamp. It's like, eh. So they've put them in. I mean, I think they would have been better on not having them, I have to say, but anyway, they put them in there. But they actually go into the bottom border, which is quite a nice idea. But they're just kind of, they're there. But what are you going to use them for if you're driving automatic? I need to know my speed, but the clutch is either in or there, is it? Anyway. And so at this point, then you'll be thinking, well, how do I control this? This crazy vehicle? And we'll come to that. The vehicle takes up sort of standard race game screen position, so about a quarter up in the middle, and you control it with the joystick. Up is speed up, not up, decelerates, best way I can describe it. Down is brake, or sharper brake, handbrake, I guess. And left and right steer, or as we said in that previous game, what was it? They weren't steering, were they? They were controlling you. I can't remember, we were, didn't they? Some stupid thing. Anyway.
I can't remember
now. But it's left and right to steer, and fire button unleashes your turbo. And so you race down the road, avoid the other vehicles, steer around the bends, trying to avoid hitting anything and spinning out of control or crashing. And, well, that's all part of kind of Outrun, isn't it? That's the Outrun that we know and love. That's kind of it. That's Outrun. That's how it works. You've got to hit the checkpoints before your time runs out. If you don't, well, you're going to be sucking down some loud, weird, bassy sounds when your engine derevs. It's loud. C64 emits a 3-channel sort of, I'm guessing it's a square wave or something. It burst my eardrums. So bloody loud. It's like, wow, God, that's okay. That's happening, is it? Okay, just get some cotton buds now. My ears are tingling. So the graphics are a bit of a mixed bag of medium and high res. The background details don't look too bad. The roadside stuff is okay. It's a tad on the character blocky and fidget side for me, but I guess that's expected in a game like this. It's not as good as it was in Power Drift, it has to be said. The road is a 3-lane highway akin to the arcade and does move well and fast with suitably silly sharp bends. and hills that kind of roll and kind of bump. It's kind of there. Music plays away nicely as you thunder down the roads. Oh, pretty good, that. It's not too bad. It's not terrible. Certainly better than some of the other race games we've had of this type. However, your cars are too big. Your car's too big. It's too damn big. Your car's too big. It's over large. You got a massive, chunky car. It's massive. And I get it. It's a very important part of the game. But the problem is the scaling goes a bit wild, doesn't it? So you've got a really big car on a really little highway, and then other cars that are coming onto you, and it all starts to get a bit wild, doesn't it? And the scaling and the sizing of the vehicles and cars is all kinds of runny and wrong, not good. So I felt the car was a bit over large for the screen, and seeing as you can't see the wheels from the back, you lose that hint of speed, which putting a simple indication on the tyres would have added. Pit stop 2 does it perfectly fine. It's just a line that flashes, but it gives you the ideas that the tyres are going round. Yeah. And the faster it flashes, the faster you might be going. I know, all the wheels are spinning. Simple idea. It controls this game exactly as you would expect, badly. And I mean, that's because it lunges more than it turns. So you don't feel like you're so much steering around the corners because you will steer and you'll go into the corner and then you come out, the car will lunge across like it did in Outrun. Same problem. Maybe that's an arcade thing. Maybe that's a bit of a throwback to that. But I find it a bit lungy around the corners. Okay, so I was flying off a lot more than I should have been. Skidding and hitting the roadside furniture, which made me spin around. Nice animation when you spin around. The car looked decent, but I was then losing time. Losing time is not good, and so that's it. The graphics, like I said, for the car spinning around, they're not terrible. It's a reasonable looking experience, aside from the car. So your car is too big, the other cars are too small, and it looks wrong on the road then. And that makes overtaking in this game incredibly difficult. Trying to avoid things in this game is hard because your car's too big on the road. So the road is either the road's too small or your car's too big, or actually probably both. And so because of that slight scaling issue, all hell breaks loose in this game. And it doesn't quite ruin it, but it's a thing that is going to be consistently wrong throughout your game experience with this, no matter how far you get. So just bear that in mind while we just talk about the little next bit. The game does have all the stages in, and they do vary in terms of graphic details, etc. But when I say vary, they don't just vary in graphics, they also vary in quality. And they don't play out in a terrible way. It's just not really that much fun because the whole thing feels a little bit thankless and, dare I say, a little bit boring. And that's part and parcel because you're not sat in a giant car in the arcade with really loud arcade-style music and sounds and speeches and all of that razzmatazz. There's a reason why this game commanded so much GPU and CPU power, because it's thrown into your face when you're sat there. Yep. So all of that power is literally fired into your eyeballs. Now, you take some of that away, okay, granted, you're not going to have the same experience, but in order for it to fit in the C64, you've got to take quite a lot of that away. That means it gets a little bit pedestrian because games like this are reliant on some of that razzmatazz. Anyway, so when I say boring, there's a few things that I factor into it. Like I said, the road feels too small for all the cars. Your cars appear to take up a little more than a single lane in width, and weaving around things soon becomes too difficult because everything feels too small on the road. And then the cars do what I hate most of all in these games. They zoom and fidget into view and just fidget about. They're not racing on that road. They're not in the way. They're just meandering all over the place. And that's not fun. That just means they're not obstacles because they don't feel like they're part of a journey or anything. They're just stupid. You may as well just be a tree floating about. Or it could be anything. It doesn't have to be a car. It's just pointless. They're just obstacles for obstacles' sake. Even the police cars are stupid in this. Now, the police cars, as far as I could ascertain, zoom up and just ram into your car and slow you down. They have no other purpose in this game. And I think they've only been added because of other games that had police cars in. So I don't know. So they just weave and get in your way, almost like all the things in there. There's no real indication of the track bends, which is a real frustrating thing for me. So you're flying along this track and it just suddenly turns out the blue. Now, eventually you remember that when you might remember some of the tracks. And there's quite a lot to remember, but you might. When you're playing this, there's no little arrows at the side of the bends or any indication that there's going to be a really sharp chicane coming up. They're just suddenly you're flung into a bend. And because your car's too big and because the road's too small, it lacks the reaction space for you to be able to adjust correctly. So you'll just end up slowing down. You can't slow down too much in this game because you won't make it in time to the checkpoint. And that is a bit of a problem, isn't it? So, I don't know. You can apply there's even with the lack of indications of track bends, it is a little offset, I suppose, because as you're pushing up, you speed up. If you don't push up, then your car just starts to slow down. So you can sort of use that to your advantage if you're going into corners, but you've got to know the corners are coming. And some of them, obviously, they're more gentle than others. But when it's a sharp turn, God help you if you're going full speed in this game, because you'll just fly off to the side. And if there's something there, you'll hit it. If there isn't something there, you might slow down. It's just a bit of a hit and miss, really. So you find yourself too big on the road, and so it's hard to judge overtaking. Like I said, bumping cars slows you down and makes you stop, costs you time. There's also hazards on the roads themselves, which seem completely pointless. There's an area of the roads where there's these wheel spikes that just burst your tyres. Why? I mean, maybe they're in the arcade, but they're just on the arcade, you've got more road to be able to get round them. In this, it doesn't feel like you do. You've got a very narrow strip to get through, and your car's too damn big for the lane. Your car is as big as a motorway lane. And now, don't get me wrong, I've seen a Ferrari F40 for real, and they are quite wide. Like Lamborghinis are quite wide, but not that wide, not like articulated lorry wide. So, so it's too cluttered is, I suppose, the end result of all that. And you get cluttering. So it's not like you get sort of just always cluttered. It's just when things clutter up, it's cluttered and you can't navigate the space and you're going to end up slowing down or hitting something. There's no way around it because that's the only way to. So your two modes of control in this game, either hit something, blind luck, or three modes, hit something, blind luck, or you're slowing down. And slowing down, two out of those three things are going to cost you time. So that ain't good. The music is okay. The sound effects are crap though. No way around that. Apart from that one sound when you run out of checkpoint time. It deafens you, other than that. And the sound effects actually are a bit pointless anyway. There's this kind of weak sound when you go past something and they're a bit naff. And then there's the weather effect, such as it is. Okay, kudos for putting it in, but you lose points for it being a weird blizzard of expanded sprites and flashing, like a flashing effect. Yeah. If you're going to put weather in a game, don't do it like that. Do it like they did in that football game. That worked all right. Little like white lines at an angle. I get the idea it's rain. Yeah. I don't need to just have this like blah, 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 this flashing sort of load of dots appear before my eyes. I thought I was seeing things for a minute. I was like, what the hell's that? It's like something out of Star Trek. I am the guardian of forever. Is that thing? Reminded me of that bloody thing. Anyway, so yeah, kudos for putting it in, but lose points for it being a crap version of that anyway. It adds nothing and it looks cheap. It's a good idea to include it, but it's a bad idea to do it like that. As you make checkpoints, you get reminders and detailed, and you get reminders that you're coming up to the checkpoint, text reminders. The details and colours do change when you go from one checkpoint to another. I noticed a little bit of a jump sometimes when you went through checkpoints as well. So it just suddenly went from like driving on the road suddenly, bing,
it's
the background
not
changed in the sky.
The whole thing just like, where am I? Like teleported.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that a bit disconcerting because in the arcade you get transitions, which you don't get in this. Maybe that's just okay. But you could do raster bar colours and there's ways I'm sure you could have managed to do something with that. So you get the reminders changed, but some of the basics issue, the basic issue for this game is still always going to be there. Like I said, you run out of sound, run out of time, you get that loud noise. You've got 3 credits to play with, which comes up in a really cheap naff screen. Out of all the razzmatazz and all the graphics and everything else, it comes up with this crappy, uncentered, just like little sort of 3 credits, yes or no. Play again, yes or no. It's really cheap. Come on, put the graphics in. Cheapskates. Pay good money for them graphics, put them in. And it wouldn't have taken much, would it? And if you press yes, you try again. If you press no, you get to go, it loads the big map in, of course. So you get a loading time, then you get the big map and it shows you how far you got. You enter your name, nice little enter your name thing, and then it's repeat and then loading again because it loads in the levels again. Oh dear. Anyway, okay. So what does all this mean? Well, for me, the thrill of Outrun and Turbo Outrun was there was their arcade presentation. They looked and sounded different at the time. Very bold, very technical presentation, really loud sounds, bespoke music, amazing bespoke music. Music I love to this day. And don't get me wrong, that initial loading music on the C64 is a version of Magical Sound Shower, and it uses samples, and it's pretty damn good, I have to say. It's 7 minutes long, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
But, those arcades were a tour de force, weren't they? And funnily enough, I was thinking about this. They're generally what I used to use as kind of the arcade quality barometer. Now, is it as good as Outrun? Is it as good as Turbo Outrun? Is it as good? And Sega had that kind of power. Now, you compared other games to Sega games in the arcade. In fact, for a while, Sega were kind of the arcade people, weren't they? They did the most amazing arcade games for a while, including Virtua Fighter later and things like that. I think that was Sega, wasn't it? And stuff like that.
Yeah. Outrun for visual splendor, things like Space Harrier and things like that were hard to be beaten.
Exactly. So they became my quality barometer for arcades. Is it as good as Outrun? Is it as good as what the graphics like? And they were setting the standard, as you heard from the hardware involved. They weren't frightened of putting some money into the hardware to make these things do what they wanted it to do. And there's stuff to like in the C64. As you progress, you can add extras to your car, which assists you in the following stages. That's in this game, and it's a nice touch, albeit that you've got to load all these bits in. The speed of the graphics is okay on the C64. They look okay for what they are, but they still have got that kind of whizzy, juddery effect, but it's not as bad as some of the games we've seen. It's certainly better than Outrun's sort of visuals anyway, in that sense. Background and side details, well, they vary massively. Some are okay, boring trees to stuff like that, but they whiz by, I suppose. So, are they okay at that sort of speed, such as it is? Yeah, okay. Is the game fast when you press the turbo button, I suppose, is a key question. It's faster, and it's okay, but it's uncontrollable. It's basically uncontrollable, so you're going to hit something, so don't expect to control it. You hit a sharp bend when you've got turbo button pressed, your car's f***ed, and so are you. That's it. So, don't expect to win if you do that. Okay, so my final thought on this is this. This was a bold step in the right direction. Okay, I'll give it that. The colours and the tone are good. The presentation is up to the standard. It's, because I think the presentation up to the game starting, the presentation, the music and the graphics and all that, it's got a really nice vibe to it. It captures kind of an arcade sensibility right up to the point when you choose automatic or manual. And I think that's good. That's good. The loading it kills it though, but it is good in what it does. And when you get to the actual game itself, of course, it's significantly toned down from the arcade, but it does capture, I suppose, more of the feel of Outrun than Outrun did originally. So it's better than the original Outrun. Is it a good turbo Outrun game? Well, it's just missing some of the key things. The car's too big, the road's too small, the turbo's not fast enough, you can't control the car properly. Those are kind of killer things, aren't they? So on top of that, the loading for the disc on this, that it can only, I didn't experience it on disc. I can only imagine the 1571 going and driving you mad with its clacky, and add to that, the sounds, and I think you'd be doing yourself an headache. So a bit of a pain, but you know what? Without the arcade fire and brimstone, Turbo Outrun just feels a little bit meh. It's just not quite right. I think Turbo Outrun needs its turbo, and without that, well, this is a step in the right direction for conversions, but it's not as competent or as well thought through or as well engineered as Power Drift was. And that is my Turbo Outrun thoughts. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've never seen this in the arcade. I never saw it in the arcade, and I was always under the impression, because I never really discussed it with anyone, that it was one of those weird home computer only sequels. I didn't know it was an arcade conversion. I thought it was like Target Renegade 3 and Target Renegade and things like that. We get these kind of weird home computer sequels, and I just thought it was that. I mean, I've essentially been a fool my entire life, as I found out. It's just crazy. But, I'm glad I never actually discussed it with anyone, because I would have sounded so stupid. Like, I'd then have been like, I was playing Turbo Outrun in the arcade, and I would have scoffed and gone, "You're a madman. There's no Turbo Outrun in the arcade. It's a home computer version only." And then would have taken it, and it would be bad. Anyway, you have to admire the presentation in this. That's the good thing, isn't it? From the outset, it dresses to impress. Great title screens, good options, and great music. It's got some of the best use of samples I've heard in a game so far within its soundtrack. Those samples, we bemoan quite a lot of the time when we get like Hubbard and Galway started off in this using samples, and what they're doing, it doesn't sound good. And here they're used to really good effect, and they work really well. Same like Cameron said, I think Tetris as well use samples, isn't it? And this does it really, really good. That opening piece of music is not something I would normally have sort of gone, "Ooh, that's quite good," but very good. I really did like it. Feels very polished. Feels expensive. It feels like they've put a lot of effort into this. And I feel like the developers were actually given a lot of time, considering it comes from those responsible for the excellent Mr. Helly. I'm not surprised, because I thought that was a very good conversion as well, and a lot of all the bits and bobs around that. Then you get to the game, and I've written exactly the same as you. The car's too big.
It is.
The car is too big. There's no way of getting around it. The car is too big, and the sensation of speeding up and slowing down is just not quite there. You don't really feel like you look at that. You look at that speedometer, you're like 200 odd kmh, miles per hour, whatever. Don't know about that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it, does it?
It has the other problem, because other cars on the road, well, they just slowly home in on you. It's like, I'm just driving, back in, reversing towards you, and they just come towards you. So you can't, because you're so big and well grown, slowing down to pass them doesn't work, because they're all doing over 200 miles per hour as well. And I know it's an arcade game, but these little trundly cars, what are they souped up with? I mean, you're in a big Ferrari. You should just be going, "Rang." Have you ever been passed by a Ferrari on a motorway that's doing some proper speed? Like, they're a blink in your wing mirror, and then they're a blink in the distance. They're just gone.
True.
So, I don't know. You just hit them constantly, and it just ruins the flow of the game. You'll do the same with the trackside stuff as well, because you'll get flung off into it. You'll spin round. It's quite nice that if you do just clip them, you only do a little spin, but you keep some of your speed. That's a nice touch. You don't slow you down, but hit them properly and you'll be spinning for hours. So much spinning, spinning and spinning. It is good. I mean, technically, it's pretty good. It's great to see so much stuff moving about smoothly. I thought this was the equal of Power Drift in what is actually getting flung about on screen with all the different things. And
some good movement.
The weather and stuff is a bit meh, but at least it's there. They've tried.
Yeah, so commend them for trying.
And what, considering everything else that is going on. But all this is moot when your car is too big, and it makes navigating this way harder than it should be. I also felt that the quality of the music at the start, excellent. I thought the in-game tune didn't fit at all. It's this twee tune.
It's not as good as it.
No, I didn't like it at all. But, there's some great technical work on display here. But like you said, it comes at a price with a rather intrusive multi-load, and that's on disc. I can't imagine what this was like on tape. Could you imagine this on tape? If like the disc drive got in the way of the thing, you imagine how it would be killed on tape to play this.
Don't want to think about it.
Good Lord. But I mean, in the here and now, it can be circumvented with the recently released and bug fixed, Easy Flash version. But it wasn't there at the time, and I just can't imagine how it fared. It would be awful. To me, it's another case of presentation winning out over playability in regards to the score. I think they've been wowed by everything that's going on, and it's Turbo Outrun, and it's kind of all there, and it's kind of there, but it's not a 97% game, not for me. It's a decent racer. I think Power Drift was better, though. More impressive considering that was all one load. I think Power Drift was that's fitting a quart into a pint pot or whatever it is, or pint pot into a quart. I can't remember what I say.
Apparently, Chris Butler had to rest for 9 moons for that.
He had to regenerate for 7 rels.
Exactly, yeah. It's like Merlin. He had to rest for 9 moons.
I'm not surprised. Would have taken quite a while to fit all that in. That's what they said anyway. But yeah, I think Power Drift is the better game for me anyway. I think this is impressive, and I think it flatters to deceive. But I think it's that I want more road. There needs to be more road. To get past
slightly smaller car, just make the car slightly less wide.
Car, yeah. If they had that, then I think you'd have been onto something.
Yeah.
And the turbo really feel like a turbo very much.
No, it didn't. I mean, it had all the lights and sounds. It just didn't do the actions.
Yeah, it just looked like it made the car fart. It just was like...
It really did. It really did, yeah. It was this little farty gas card came out.
Yeah, Trumpy outrun. There we go. Turbo Outrun, it's good. It's not 97% good. But yeah, for me, it's probably 90. It's a sizzler, but I don't think it's that good.
Yeah, well, I'd say, 90, in the 90s, but low 90s.
Yeah. If Power Drift was there, then it's the same. It's the same or less.
Yeah.
But if you want, the late 1989 racing face-off, shall we say, I think was won by Power Drift. I think it's more fun. Yeah. It's more fun, and it's quick, and it's fast, and you just get into it really quick.
Yeah,
and that's what you want with these games. That's what you want. Yeah. And Chris Butler made the right decision, I think.
Yes, he did.
At that point. So there we go. There's Turbo Outrun. That's our first one this week. It's all right. It's all right. Let's move on to our next one, which in time-honored tradition, I'm sure will be just as good. And that game, Graham, is Sporting Triangles.
Ooh.
From those wizards at CDS and those further wizards at Mr. Micro, remember them, comes the computer conversion of everyone's second favourite sports quiz show of the 80s, Sporting Triangles. Yeah, I barely remember this.
No.
I was like, Sporting Triangles? I'll be honest, I like both sports and quiz shows.
And triangles.
Triangles. I'm a big fan of the triangle, and it's its geometric shapes and its propensity for being the strongest shape around for building stuff. Love them.
Yeah.
But I
love them.
Barely remember this. And we had, you put an episode on to watch, and I watched it and went, this rings no bells. Nothing. What is this? No. Anyway.
It was a bit quiet, I felt, but I'm sure,
It was. Nick Ross did his best. And Jimmy Greaves' jokes, tumbleweed. It's like, oh my Lord.
They needed a studio audience, a friendly one.
Anyway, Mr. Micro, you may remember, they did the 64 version of Karnov.
Oh, God.
But that was someone else, because Coding Duty's here by Jason Heggie, and it's got music by David Whittaker. As the game loads, we get a version of the show's logo, which is actually very reminiscent of the show's logo. It's not a great logo.
No.
It's too many triangles, but this is Sporting Triangles. But it's a good version of the one from the TV show. Interestingly, if you had a show called Sporting Triangles, right, how many people would you think would be on each team?
Well, I would say 3.
No, you've got 3 teams of 2. Oh, you've fallen at the first hurdle.
Idiots.
To use a sporting metaphor, it's just you've just collapsed. You haven't made it over. Absolutely.
Honestly, you couldn't make it up. You couldn't.
Pole vault's bent and broke. It's just you've all gone wrong. But yeah, it's a good version of the logo from the TV show. It's got 3 triangles on it. Anyway, get used to looking at this though, because this game has got some severe slowing.
Oh, God.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, it is a bit.
Once through this, we get to the setup, and here you can choose the number of humans playing from 1 to 3.
In stitches that.
If you pick 1, you get 2 CPU opponents and so on. If you pick 2 people, there's always 3 people playing, 3 things playing. You can enter in your name and the competency of the CPU opponents from average, good, or perfect. Who's going to pick perfect?
What does average even mean?
I don't know.
That context?
Don't know.
Because average is good, isn't it? Someone's average.
You would
is
think if you've
good.
got three difficulties, that the middle one is average, because the bottom and top one average them out.
Yeah, Easy, medium, and hard. Yeah, those kind of the standards, aren't they?
Yeah. Once done, each player can choose each. That reminds me of that Michael Gove, where every school should be above average.
Yeah.
How's that going to work, Michael? Because every school should be above average. It can't be. Where's the average idiot anyway?
Back in the triangle
with the other person. Once done, each player can choose their specialist sport from a range of 12 different sports, and the CPU, if you have any playing, will do the same. So you've got a grid and there's sports on there. Although some of the sports are quite strangely named as well, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
In fact, the one that has a bike on it is just called Wheels.
It made me laugh loads, that.
Wheels. I love the sport of wheels.
Loads of them have got wheels in. How many sports have wheels in?
I'm often down the park at a weekend playing wheels.
Exactly, yeah. Which kind of wheels are you on? Oh, motorised wheels now.
Doesn't matter. Once done, you set the time limit for each question, and then you're on to the game. But not before more slowed in. After waiting patiently, you each get to roll a dice. It's on the left. I think it's on the left of the screen or the right somewhere, to see who goes first, and then the game starts. But to save time, I'm just going to read from the manual on the order of events and what to do in each one, because I could write it out, but they've done it already. So basically, the rounds are arranged in the following order. There are 7 rounds, and they are the standard. You get 2 standard question rounds. You get a hit for 6 round, 2 more standard question rounds, a jigsaw picture question round, and a quick fire question round. That's it. In the standard question round, the main game is replaced by the game board screen. This shows the triangular play board, the puck or marker, and the rotating die. Press fire will stop the die, and the puck will move on an appropriate number of spaces around the board. Question matcher will then ask a question of the category indicated by the colour of the space on which the puck rests. Red, yellow, and green spaces are the sports of the 3 contestants. So when you've picked you're with the 3, because you've 3 players. I'll get to the graphics in a bit, but the way this is, you each get given a colour. It's not clear what colour you are as well, the way that it's laid out on the main screen either.
No,
it took me a while
not.
to actually spot what colour I was. So you roll the thing. There's 4 colours on this: red, yellow, green, and white. So if you land on a red one, you've read whatever specialist sport the red one picks, and that's how it works. You basically just got to say the answer, and then it says, you say to yourself, did you get it right? And it's that kind of thing. It's okay. So you go, and that's what you do. So you do that for a couple of rounds. That's the standard question round. And you go around, and everyone takes their turn, and you move around, and you get points if you get them right. In the hit for 6 round, the player is presented with 7 possible answers and a clue. The player has 6 attempts to guess the answer. With each guess, a new clue is displayed, and the number of points scored decreases by 1, from a maximum of 6 to a minimum of 1. After the answer has been established, the game returns to the main game screen for the next turn, and then it's 2 more standard question rounds. Before we get to the jigsaw picture round, this works in similar way to the hit for 6 round. It has the same 7 possible answers, but this time the clue is a picture in the lower left of the screen. This is revealed in stages, a bit like the catchphrase bit where you reveal each one each time. So it's a bit like that. Again, the score reduces from 6 to 1 with successive guesses. Finally, you go to the quickfire question round, where you've got a buzzer. It's a buzzer type round. So this time you've all got to be crowded. If there's 3 players, you all got to be crowded around the computer, because the left contestant has to press Z, the center contestant has to press V, and the right contestant has to press M to sort of buzz in to say the answer, and then that's it. Then you get the final scores. So for 7 rounds, it shows the final scores and asks you if you want to play again. But that's it. Standard quiz show nonsense. So it does all that. Right, so that's it. That's how it works. So I think this is clearly a port from the Spectrum.
Yeah, just not kidding.
The visuals are all character graphics and very ugly with it. So the way this sort of presents itself is the main screen is, so you're not in teams of 2 anymore. There's just 1 person per team, per colour. And it sort of just has them all 3 of them on screen. So it's almost like there's 1 in the middle slightly raised and 2 on the left and right slightly lower down. And they're all very oddly drawn, and they've got your colour is underneath them, and it's really not clear because it's all character graphics. So there are big coloured blocks around people's heads and bodies, especially because it's got a white background. If they don't have white faces, then it's big. It's brown or yellow or red or weird colours around them because it's all character graphics, and it's high res. So that's a problem. The colour for each one, as I said, for each one is below them. But again, it's all character graphics. This doesn't work. This doesn't work in high res with triangles. There's a problem there with the C64 in that it's trying to sort of show you more than 1 colour on a character, more than 2 colours on a character that's in high res, which the C64 can't do at this point in time.
No.
So it's a fundamentally bad choice when designing this in choosing high res, only gives 2 colours. So therefore, to make filled in triangles is never going to work because you've just got a black line across a square, which is looks ugly. really ugly. I have no idea why they've gone to this style. Like I said, beyond the assumption that this is just ported over Spectrum graphics or something, and they've not bothered to actually change anything, like we saw with Karnov and crap like that. So that, it doesn't give a good impression at any stage. And when we're not facing the players, we have the board. It's just a big triangle with some coloured sections. It fares better than the players, but it's dull and boring still. It's got an animated high-res die on the left of the screen. Guess it's all right, but boring. When we get to the hit for 6 round, we get a list of options to choose, and we get the same for the jigsaw puzzle round with an indistinct visual on the left to try and help us. When that first appeared, I was like, what is that? It's really small and indistinct, and it doesn't give you any clue to what this sport is or the question is or anything like that. And that's rubbish. So that's quite crap. The music is a rudimentary version of the TV show, and it is what it is. It pops up every round for a little wake-up call. Just sort of pops up. So no, that's not good. Then we come to the questions, which are rock hard.
They really are difficult.
Really, really hard. I have liked sport all my life, and I particularly liked watching sports quiz shows in the 80s and things like that. So I've got a fairly decent sporting knowledge. But, knowing who the 1976 Russian gymnast who came third in the balance beam, it's not something I'm going to know.
You mean you didn't know that?
No.
Oh, you should have studied.
And I think I would have tested most people back then. But, it's an honour system. So you say the answer, then it says what it is, and you confirm whether you got it right or wrong. And most likely, that's going to be wrong. These questions are so stupidly difficult. I get it at least saves you having to type stuff in. So there is that. And if you're playing with each other, playing against your friends, I guess, you got it wrong. Yeah, right. Of course you got it wrong. Everyone gets it wrong. Not that you're going to have 3. If you had 2 friends to come round and you played this with them, they're not going to be your friends very long. That's for sure. There's not a lot more to say about this. I don't think anyone really cared about this back then. It's a poor man's question of sport on ITV. But, because that's what it is. It's just a rip-off a question of sport, which has been going for ages. ITV wanted a sports quiz show, and they thought, well, they've got two sets of 3. We'll have 3 sets of 2 and call it triangles. Yeah. Stupid, as we said. But, it did have the sporting celebs on. So it had Jimmy Greaves, Tessa Sanderson, and Andy Gray, I think, were the team captains in the episode we watched. And that leads to the, I'll say, entertainment in the loosest possible terms, but it's what you watch these things for, isn't it? It's what we said before about all these kind of panel quiz shows that get converted. You don't watch it for the questions. You don't watch these shows for the thing. You watch it for the interaction between the people playing. Whether it's Nevermind the Buzzcocks, whether it's James Corden's, what that sports show he does, whether it's Mock the Week, whether it's Would I Lie to You? You watch them for the laughs of the people interacting.
Yes.
That's it. And you have a bit of a good time for half an hour. That's what you tuned in for. Well, you check that out. We've said about all these games. Goes out the window when you're played on your own with 2 CPU players, and the fun of the TV show is a distant memory. And I say fun of this TV show because I think it was a distant memory probably once you were watching it. Oh, this is boring. If you did get anyone to play this with you, they'd have walked away long ago because of the boring loading. It's really slow. It's a misguided and pointless conversion of the boring and pointless TV show, and really ugly to boot. It's just a massive nope. It cost £9.99. It was full price, and it got 27%. Probably about right, because some people probably would like this, but it's a dreadful, dreadful thing. All told, it's just rubbish and boring to boot. Nah, didn't like this. What about you?
It was loading for ages. It was just like, it was the loadiest game ever, wasn't it?
It's still loading.
I mean, it just took forever. And I'm like, I'm not really into sports games. So this was always going to be a real difficult
I knew
push.
You would hate this.
It's just, I'm thinking, look, you got to make these games better than this, right? It was clearly a Spectrum conversion, and it was obvious because it was like Spectrum World. The trill tones of Dave Whitaker presented themselves. Okay, it was a version of TV film, not that memorable and not that good. Stupid things like pick the competency for your players. Is he averagely competent? Well, that doesn't really mean anything, does it? It's really difficult to know what averagely competent anything means. Having sports selections like wheels instead of cycling and just stuff like that. Then when I did pick, because I picked boxing, obviously Calabos, and Calabos decided to go up against Frank and Lee, who were the computer players. When it presented itself, it looked like 3 giant people sat on thrones, one of which was, I think, meant to be Frank Bruno.
Yeah.
I don't quite get who they were meant to be now. Were they meant to be celebrities, or were they the characters I picked? And if they were the characters I picked, why did Calabos come out as Frank Bruno? I don't get it.
We don't know.
So I don't quite know. I think someone got the idea of the game a bit wrong at that point. Anyway, all the slowed in, it took ages. It took 5 to 10 minutes to load those questions in, because it loads each round in, doesn't it? Round 1, load in. So boring. Graphics, that horrible monocolor kind of, like you say, characters and high res, and the white would have had a CRT TV screaming for mercy. Just look naff. No care, really. Those rows of crap icons did make me laugh, though. And then there's that weird view, the kings and queens on their thrones. It's just really dull, mostly silent, with an honor system. Okay, no, I was never going to play this with anyone ever. Even if I went back in time, I wouldn't. So playing it on your own, it's got to be the very definition of you've got literally nothing better to do. You're going to beat yourself. You're going to choose averagely competent people and beat them. If you're doing that in life, if that's what makes you happy, rethink your fucking life plan. This was boring. I'm choosing averagely competent people to beat today. No, boring. No.
The pointless endeavour. Sporting triangles.
Below average for a triangle-based game.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, it is engineering's all-star. And they've done it a disservice.
All the angles, none of the strength.
No, it's got all the wrong angles. None of the right angles. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on, because we've still got one game to go through this part. And Graham, that one's over to you again. Are you? I know you're not, but this is Xenophobe.
No, I'm not Xenophobe. So this is another arcade conversion. How many are there going to be? We just had loads recently, haven't we?
All of them.
Landed
Every
like a big heavyweight.
One ever made.
So Xenophobe was released for £9.95. It got 68% in Zapped, though. Stinky fish. Publisher was MicroStyle. This was copyright Ballymidway. Hey, Ballymidway. So it's the old arcade Ballymidway. There's a funny and very long and interesting history about Ballymidway, which I won't go into right now, but suffice to say that in a certain part of their history, they were all kind of part of the gangsters and stuff. So there was basically set up by gangsters, Ballymidway. Well, they were merged with, anyway, I won't go into it all. Go and look it up. It's quite interesting. The conversion was Visage software. Visage. The C64 version by Axel. It was apparently a chap called Alexander Brown. And the graphics were by Cookie. So I don't know if that's Mark Cook, Michael Cook. I don't know. Cookie did it. It's Cookie.
Bobby Cook.
Oi, Cookie. Get him graphics done, Cookie. Right, I will. And then musician was Barry Leach. Good old Barry Leach. Reliable, friendly Barry Leach. We like Barry. Good old Barry. So there is a blurb, and I'm going to go through it. I may regret going through it, but I'm going to go through it. Okay. The introduction. Xenophobe is an action-oriented game embodying all that is best in micro-style games. Which is, easy to play, but difficult to master with a unique split screen and 2-player option. Yeah, the footnote there is that it was a 3-player arcade. Anyway, so Xenophobe is one, and this is the definition in the game, one who has a deathly fear of anything alien. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
We call that in the UK nowadays, we call that the Prime Minister, don't we? But there we go. Anyway.
A bit of politics.
Bit of politics. Anyway, the background here. So, Sticken thought ruefully about the Earth he was leaving. An Earth once mighty in his childhood years, now insular, polluted, demoralized, and dispirited. That sounds crappy, doesn't it? And crappy. The proud forays... This is written in quite floral language, Adrian, this. The proud forays into space during the 30s and 40s marked a period of expansion, an era in which the hope and aspirations of 1,000 generations of humanity had been realized. Then, in 56, came the first of a series of disasters. The new Phoenix Mars colonists were afflicted by a mystery plague. Some say it was a Martian bug. Most blamed the Central Bloc and the Brazilians and Indians in particular. Okay. Earth-sensitive political equilibrium was... Why pick on them? Earth's sensitive political equilibrium was deteriorating with the emergence of new so-called superstates, India, Brazil, and Pakistan being the major powers. Why are they picking on them? India, now ruling the whole subcontinent.
I'm sensing some xenophobia here in this game.
I'm just a bit. India, now ruling the whole subcontinent with an iron fist and proving a major threat to both the new free states of Russia and China. Okay. Whether it was biological espionage by the Central Bloc, we'll never know. But nearly 250,000 souls lost their lives on Earth when its confident, possibly arrogant rush for the stars stumbled. Okay. In 58, 80 personnel of the small Io scientific mission were killed by a violent volcanic eruption from the surface of Jupiter. Indeed, 58 was a turning point for humanity. In retrospect, the skirmish was inevitable, but when war broke out between India and China, a limited nuclear exchange turned the green cities of New Delhi and Beijing into a vivid vision of hell.
Can I just stop there a moment? Isn't Jupiter a gas giant?
Yes.
So does it have a surface to have a volcanic eruption from?
Who knows? Nobody can see that far in. The world's not that big. I don't know.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe it does. I don't know. What do I know?
Something tells me that this person was very geopolitically motivated for some reason. Anyway, it only lasted a week and only 20 warheads were used, but the Earth was turned irrevocably towards a period of introspection. That's not the thing you expect them to say after a nuclear exchange. Now, you lot, I expect a irrevocable period of introspection after that. You
what have we
naughty
done?
bunch.
I've got to use Gibbs's cycle of reflection to think about what I've done. How do I feel about this?
Kolb. What would Kolb say? Why spend money on pointless crusades into the unknown when the cost is the spiritual destruction of the Earth itself? Throughout the free world, the planetists were in the ascendancy. Goodness me. With protection of the Earth their major priority. So the huge orbital platforms surrounding Earth became largely derelict. Many with only maintenance personnel and small teams of scientists manning the platforms. Of all mankind's space colonies, only the moon exists as a living community. The moon shuttle being the only regular passenger space shuttle in service. And now this, and now this. In 62, transmissions of an unidentified nature were picked up at the edge of the solar system in the region of Neptune. It's not the edge of the solar system. Unmanned scanners and transmitters in the area quickly ceased their broadcasts, blinking out of existence at the same instant. Routine transmissions from the Europa Marine colony ceased 1 week afterward. The effect Earthside was devastating xenophobia gripping the world. In some strange way, it unified the disparate bands of humanity into a common emotion. Fear. Was it the aliens who destroyed the Europa settlement? Did the mystery Martian virus have an extraterrestrial origin? Earth's political strategists now believe the aliens to be studying the planet from our own orbiting platforms.
Did I take this story for a quick book?
I'm telling you, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Contact with the scientific teams on board has been lost. One microwave visual gave a frightening insight to the new inhabitants. Chicken, this is spelled Schickn. That's Chicken, right?
Chicken. Yeah.
It's the name of a person, yeah, Chicken. So who calls the hero of anything Chicken? Anyway, Chicken's reminiscences were shattered by a sharp expletive by Korolski, or Quack to his friends.
Oh, God.
Quack? I was just thinking about the microwave backgrounds and reminiscing, and you interrupted my thoughts.
We've got chicken and the sound of a duck. Somebody is bird obsessed. Yes. Xenophobe who wrote this.
A hero called Chicken and his best mate Quack. I love it. Okay. So anyway, by Korski or Quack to his friends, a native of the new, now extinct European colony. Look at the thing. The space platform was scarred, revealing damage done by the equivalent of high-energy laser cannons. Almost surgically, the space station 015 had an oval hole measuring around 100 meters in its upper ring. No one wants an oval hole in their upper ring, Adrian. It's very
Not
painful.
measuring that big.
Very painful. Not that big. So, they're here. No one on Earth was prepared to even investigate, all being paralyzed by fear.
Or just lazy.
Our expeditionary force was a mixed bag of scientific idealists, embittered European mutants, and old spacers like myself were the only ones to take up the challenge from 5 billion people. Looking at the so-called combat crew, Chicken could not resist a smile. Here he was, the leader of the oddest band of mercenaries it was possible to imagine. To them, this was no adventure, no military campaign. This was a goddamn crusade. A crusade not just against the unknown, to some, like Quack. Shut up, Quack. Quack, God's sake. Shut your beak. Shut that beak, Quack. That's it, Quack. To some, like Quack, it was a simple question of revenge. For most, it was a fight to give people of Earth a purpose, to save the world from xenophobia. Save us from this god-awful nonsense. You know what the crazy thing is, right? That was added clearly because the arcade doesn't have a lot of that in it. That's just been added. Somebody wrote that specifically for this, I guess. Anyway, the mission objective. So let's cut to the chase, shall we?
Finally.
The alien life forms are this is a word on the instructions, right? The alien life forms are despoilers of intelligent life. Despoilers! Who uses that word? Despoiler.
In this context, this time of night, that localized to an instruction manual.
Have you been writing these instructions, Quack? Honestly, that's Dr. Quack to you. Anyway, so mission objective, eliminate the aliens.
That's it.
That's it after all that, yeah. Number 1, to exterminate all hostile alien life forms called Xenos that are thought to be infesting the derelict space stations and moon bases. Always with the moon base. Number 2, to collect the various forms of hardware thought to be left on board the platforms and bases, which could help the human fight and be useful to the aliens. The appearances of the aliens force is repulsive. You must avoid xenophobia. What?
I don't think I know what this means.
No. Anyway, the briefing then, because this, I'm sorry to say this, but there is a little more, and I've got to do it because it's written in this crazy language, and Quack won't be very happy if we don't get through it. The power of the alien, so this is the briefing. The power of the alien force is unknown. Initially, only 2 of your team from the 3 squads will be sent in. It is for you to assess relative strengths and send in the 2 most appropriate personalities. The 2 combatants will report to the shuttle transfer room where the molecules of each combatant will be dematerialized and rematerialized in the base. Traveling from room to room and level to level by using the elevator, you must accomplish the first objective to exterminate the required number of Xenos in each level of base within a time, or else the pests will overrun the base. The length of time varies with the number of levels. The battle between the exterminators and the Xenos may result in 3 different outcomes. Outcome number 1, time runs out. The Xenos overrun the base, and the base self-destructs after the exterminators return to the mothership via the transfer disk. Number 2, the player, exterminator, orders a fast destruct of the base. To prevent it from being overrun by Xenos, the base is destroyed after the exterminator returns to the mothership via the transfer disk. Or number 3, player, exterminator, clears the base of Xenos. The exterminators return to the mothership via the transfer disk. So all of that guff boils down to kill everything. You could just put that, they could just put kill everything. Kill everything. Do it. Kill everything. Okay. Glad we got through that. Thanks, Quack. Thanks for all your help, Quack. All right. God. Don't over-egg your pudding, Quack. All right. You're not that important. Honestly. Quack. God's sake. Anyway. So, Xenophobe is a bit an odd and somewhat obscure 1987 Bally Midway arcade designed by Brian Collin, who was the designer of the arcade Rampage. All makes sense now, doesn't it? Classed as a scrolling fighter, this is a 3-player split-screen game in the arcades that sees you aiming to seek out and kill a bunch of aliens level by level that have infested a bunch of the star bases, moon bases, ships, and space cities. Kill the Xenos. The goal of each level is to defeat all the Xenos before a countdown timer runs out. Some rooms routinely display the percentage of alien infestation and time remaining until self-destructs when the level ends, but a nearby button can temporarily deactivate the countdown. If you find it, levels may contain more than one floor, and players use elevators to move between them, as described in the little bit of the instructions that was relevant. Players can also pick up more powerful weapons to help in their eradication of aliens. If you so wish, you can do that. The hostile Xenos are encountered in a range of forms, beginning with pods. If pods hatch, they create a critter, which can attach itself to the player and drain health. If a critter is not killed, it eventually matures into a roller baby, which rolls around to attack the player character. These, in turn, can grow into snotterpillar form, which attacks by leaping or spitting. Nobody wants that, do they?
No.
In the arcade, there are 9 characters to choose from in Xenophobe, 3 for each joystick, or 3 for each player. The leftmost controller, you can choose from Mr. Embrace, Dr. Quack, and Colonel Poupon. So that's Brace, Quack, and Poupon. You got to choose from if you're going to be the red.
That sounds like instructions when your plane's going down. Everyone, brace, Quack, and Poupon.
You will hear the commands Brace, Quack, and Poupon. Choose who you poop on carefully. The middle controller features Mr. Fogg, Colonel Truth, and Dr. Udderbay.
Fogg, Truth, and Udderbay.
Yeah, or Udderbay. Depends how you want to say it. Udderbay, so Udderbay. And the right controller features Mr. Ease, Dr. Zorders, and Colonel Chicken. That's not me. Oh, Mr. Chicken's back.
Ease, Orders, and Chicken.
Mr. Ease.
Mr. Ease. Mr. Is. It's like Edward Digma.
Humans and aliens alike make up the playable characters. For instance, Dr. Quack has a duck's head.
Oh, God.
He does. Players are also colour-coded. For instance, the left player's choices wear red shirts, the middle player's yellow, and the right player's blue. That doesn't really work in the C64 version. I'm just going to let you know that.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. This was ported to pretty much every format on Earth, including the Atari Lynx at a certain point. Believe it or not, the NES. It's everywhere, this game.
And there was an even Atari 2600 version in 1990.
There is. It is literally on everything. I know, it's amazing. I guess the innovation here for the arcade was the notion of a 3-player game in the way that they'd done it. So it was kind of... It's in 3 layers. So it's top, middle, bottom, and each player plays a layer. So that's how it's done. It's sort of independently as well. So that it's not like in Gauntlet where you're all chasing the same thing. You can actually sort of exist in the same layer and do your own thing. So I suppose there's that. A bit more aligned maybe to the kind of spy versus spy type idea, or maybe later Lego games, I thought, had that kind of idea.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
It's just the idea that 2 people can play the same game in an arcade independently of each other and for the same goal, but not doing the same thing. That was maybe unique at the time. Maybe there wasn't a lot of arcades doing that. I don't know. There's a cartoon styling that comes to this with the arcades. No surprises that it's 3-player, of course, like Rampage, and has a similar kind of styling to the graphics in the arcade to Rampage as well. They have a look. There's no doubt about that. And this game has that look. So think Rampage, think what the graphics look like. Not obviously monsters in space, but that kind of resolution, that kind of colorization, that kind of style. Xenophobe fits into that bill, I think. Whack. Chap, quack. God, you can't say anything. Honestly, bloody hell. Cherry Valley is down the road from me. Just saying. Anyway, sorry, he's out of control tonight. It's like wild, fluffing his feathers and bloody, honestly. So the C64 version then, because that's all arcade stuff and all that. C64 version. A jaunty start, some twangy speech, welcome to Xenophobe, and a punchy, if a touch shrill, title score with an okay loading screen of a bold game logo, which is clearly done for the game because it doesn't feature in the arcade as far as I can see at all, and an alien head. Bold, not great graphics, alien head. It looked a bit like the beast from Krull, but there you go. Anyway, then the title screen appeared. On first look, it's pretty decent, I guess. Some options to choose from, number of players, music or sound effects, difficulty, ammunition, start level. There's a nice rolling select effect on the text. That's quite a nice effect. It's got some production vibes to it. And some icons give indication. I like the difficulty icon being a flexing bicep. I thought that was quite an interesting little touch when you to up the difficulty, flex his muscles. Better than average, perfect or good, isn't
it? Yeah.
I'm not sure of the rationale for selecting limited instead of unlimited ammo, though. Couldn't quite get my head around that. But anyway, I just selected unlimited. I figured that was maybe it's just, maybe ups the ante of the game and makes it hard. I don't know. Maybe just people are out there that want to do that. But you use your joysticks to select your options. And then once you have it all ready, you click start. Obviously, the major difference for all the ported versions is that there is 1 or 2 players simultaneously for this, and you don't have a third player option at all. So the spleen display is therefore split into 1 strip or 2 horizontally. Then once you've got past that, you have to choose a character from the teams presented. Here you'll see your gameplay area, or sort of area slot, and 3 of the characters from the teams will walk on. You can choose from one of those as per the character names from the arcade, so exactly the same team names. Dr. Quack's in there and all the others. And you can press your Commodore key and that'll send in a different set of characters to play. So you get to choose from all the characters that are in the arcade if you want to play them here. The graphics give you the sense that what the game is going to look like overall at this point. There's a medium res kind of effect all the way through, with a medium res limited color palette and a medium res blockiness that's a C64. It's not terribly done. There's some nice bits to it, but it is what it is. The game logo is still at the top. Your corridor view is kind of a 2.5D in a spaceship greys and whites. They do change and vary with the different levels, with some windows in that have stars in and such. It reminded me like a blocky, thinner, medium res version of Project Firestar in terms of the way the spaceship looked.
A little, yeah. I can kind of, maybe.
The characters all, handily enough, seem to have the same general shape and colour scheme with different heads, and they all animate a little bit weirdly, I thought. They don't so much walk as kind of stumble forwards, anyway. Yeah. But they're akin to the arcade at least, and they are the same characters from the arcade. They have the same characterization, and you can choose from them. All right. Below your corridor space is your status line, which shows your points, remaining health, and 2 action functions, which at certain parts of the game will display or give you options. Action 1 things are like push button, fix gizmo, break glass, insert key, lift go up. Action 2 is pick up object and lift go down.
Okay, Mongo.
That's the third option. Candygram for Mongo. Not sure why it's done that way at all, really. It's weird why they've done it. The controls are a bit odd, actually, to say the least.
Yeah.
But at this point, when you're choosing the selection and things like that, it just says the word health and then the word joystick 3 times. There's some kind of indicator arrows and then the word points. But it's like the UI that doesn't really mean anything at this point. It's like, doesn't have a purpose at this point. You move your joystick and a floating indicator of the character's head will line up. If that character is the one you want to select, you press fire and go. The other characters will walk off and you'll vanish beam and then reappear, materialize exactly where you were, and then loading begins, which is weird. Now, this is what threw me a little bit because I thought, okay, we're going to the game. Not quite so much.
Yeah.
This is all preamble to the actual game. So once the game's loaded, you get a view that's more aligned to exactly how the arcade looks at this point. So all of that preamble stuff is kind of in the arcade, but not in the same way. So this point, you get to the sort of arcade bit. The window displays text and game credits, more or less like from the arcade, with a status line. The status line has now another line of text above the previous one that gives additional options. And at this point, you can choose music on or off. Then you get the instructions for the level you're entering once you sort of go through that bit. And basically, it says kill everything before you run out of time, which you already know. There's also a beta objective, which is a nice touch, I suppose, if you think about it. Here, you can recover valuable hardware again. It mentions it in the instructions. It's not explicitly sort of something you're going to really want to do anyway, but it's there. And then there's more text, and then there's the game logo flashing and bouncing over the text, which is also from the arcade at this point. All feels like it's holding you back from just getting into it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just let me play the damn game. It's like one thing and another. It's a bit of a typographic nightmare as well, that of epic proportions. There's text everywhere. I was like, no more text. Get me into the game immediately.
It's like a cover. It's like a Zap front cover.
It is. There was text. There was reading text, and the logo appeared over it, and it was bouncing around anyway. The transfer happens with a little animation, which is, I suppose, more or less from the arcade, like a space vehicle thing. I don't know. It looked like a little space cock shot out from another thing, and then it shoots a little thing out, and it flies towards a distant vessel. It's of the arcade, I guess. But at this point, you'll see your health will go up to 2,000, and then the game finally starts. So when the game does start, you begin walking and shooting. Each screen houses some kind of alien or aliens in varying stages of their development, and occasionally something to collect or pick up, with doors usually at the end of a corridor. You move your character with the joystick left and right. Top corner is a jump, left and right. Up is jump, up, or action 1. Down is crouch, or action 2. Bottom corners are crouch, left and right. You will shoot in the direction you are facing, and you can adjust the angle you are shooting at by moving the joystick up or down just after you shoot. It's not a great system, I'll be honest.
It's
convoluted, confusing, and crappy. And they're not the good things. You can shoot it out with the aliens, pick up objects. Some of these objects are indicated by letters. P is for phaser. L is for pistol. Stupid. It's a bit naff, as these are really poor indicators, as are some of the other objects you collect, which increase your score, but you have no idea what they're for or what they do. Some of the background details of the corridor will have things you can switch or interact with. It's not immediately obvious, and you can use your up actions to do that, use your down actions to pick up. So action 1 does the up things, action 2 does the down things. Some will open doors, and there are some indicators of your remaining time on some of the screens in some levels with a countdown clock. As you wander from screen to screen, they scroll across a kind of a sliding style, sort of same as the arcade, and you must navigate and kill things. And some of the alien types are harder to kill than other things. Some seem impossible to kill, and sometimes I think you maybe just meant to avoid those. I don't know, but the idea is you've got to kill everything, and I don't quite know. I was shooting at one thing for ages, and it wouldn't die, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a bit odd. If the aliens touch you, they'll reduce your health. Some will annoyingly bounce you backwards, which is something I've really come to loathe in Commodore 64 games, when I'm bounced backwards onto things. Just, don't the Barbarian 2 effect.
Oh, it gives me Untouchables flashbacks.
Yeah, or Untouchables. Yeah, don't make me do that. So it plays all right for what it is. It's not bad, terrible. And it does have some nice graphics, albeit tiny versions of the arcade. They're quite, for what they are, they're okay. It moves around okay, I guess, even with its really weird controls. And there's, I suppose, a sense of pace because you're on a time countdown, so you've got to get things done. It's colourful, I'll give it that. Leans into the arcade a lot, which isn't saying a lot, but it does have a look. And if there is going to be a look that it has, then this game kind of leans in on that look. So, okay, it's kind of there. Mm-hmm. But the game is dreary. And this is clearly an issue of the arcade, because when I looked at the arcade in YouTube, the arcade looked boring as well. 3-player, maybe this was fun. 2-player, maybe it's good. 1-player, boring and samey.
You're saying it's average, good, and perfect?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. Honestly, it's the sporting triangle of the game. So it's just, I don't know, it's just, samey boringness is not really my favourite thing. I like the UI, add some nice high-res details, and I quite like that. I quite like it when you've got really nice high-res colorization, when it's done right, it can look okay. And at least they try to capture the essence and colours of the arcade. And I think they probably just about achieved that in Commodore 64 world. The sounds and the music, while odd, are okay, and it plays out okay, but it's just walk, shoot, pick up, walk, go through doors, shoot, repeat. And it's that over and over and over and over again. And maybe if that's it, okay. In the arcades, you can kind of get away with that, because by their nature, they're designed to give you short bursts of play and then demand another coin. So you can make a decision. I played it a little bit. It's all right. Don't want to put another bit of money in and play a bit more. I can do that. That's kind of the arcade thing. When you can just keep on trucking in a game like this, will you actually want to, becomes the question. I don't think you will. It's a competent version of an average and relatively unknown arcade, but that ain't saying a lot, is it? And as for the instructions, the only person I've seen who writes crappy instructions like that is that guy from System 3.
Yeah.
I think it takes a lot to beat. Is it Mark Cale?
Yes.
Mark Cale's instructions. I made the mistake of reading the ones, by the way, for a game that we're going to look at in the future for Myth. Goodness me. Anyway, we'll deal with that later, but this one's bad enough. But what did you think of Xenophobe?
What the hell is this game? It's got one of the most confusing UIs I've ever come across. I was like, what? It just kept flashing. And I was like, and it's also one of the loudest games I've ever played on the machine. It's so loud.
It is loud.
It's just that music kept cutting in, or whatever it went. It's at the beginning. I mean, I looked at the arcade version. I'm still none the wiser. Just choosing someone to play left me somewhat bemused. And I had no idea how to navigate the incredibly loud menu screens. That tune kept stopping and starting all over the place. And then I was in a game running from room to room, shooting stuff and picking stuff up. And God knows what was going on. Just, I have no idea. The whole experience has led me to, I just wanted to go sit down in a dark and quiet room for a while to recover. I was like, I feel overwhelmed. Oh God, it's so loud. I mean, it looks okay. There's some nice medium res visuals and stuff, and but everything's just so busy and full on all the time with aliens wandering about and no real indication if you're doing damage to them or not. No real explanation of what you have to do, what is going on. There's text flashing all over the place. There's stuff. I was just lost. I played it. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I can't believe this is an arcade game. It feels way too convoluted for that quick 10p ago thrill that you'd be after.
Yeah.
And even here in the home computer space, it still feels really over-designed and messy. And that's the problem with it. It feels messy. There's lots of nice effects and stuff all around the place. But the problem is it's a Homer's webpage of a game.
It really is. Quack will not be happy with what you're saying, by the way.
Quack. Yeah, I'm telling the truth, Quack. You can quack all you like. But there's so much going on in this sort of thing. You can't concentrate. There's so many things vying for your attention at any one moment. You're like, what am I looking at? But essentially, all this is run from room to room and shoot stuff.
It is,
left to right.
Why don't they just put that in the instructions? That'd have been way more palatable than that garbage they wrote about all that.
I'm just looking at one of the screens, and it's like underneath the page you've got a joystick up command, a joystick left and right, and a joystick down and points. And it's like, what does all this mean?
Yeah,
what does it mean? It's like but that comes, like you said, the problem there is that this comes from the arcade game. If you played this in the arcade, and I don't believe anyone ever has because it's so obscure, but maybe some people have. Arcade games are built to be instantly, within 3, 4, 5 seconds, you've got to know what you're doing. Think of the classic arcade games. Golden Axe, I walk some way and hit monsters. Green Beret, I run along and stab stuff. This should be like, what? What
am I doing?
You'd be lost. I didn't get on with this, and I still need a paracetamol just thinking about it. Gave me a headache. And that story for the setup is just nonsense.
You mean this game drove you quackers?
Yeah, it really did. It did.
Hey.
Yay. I just want to go sit down. Xenophobe. Just crazy. What a crazy game. No, it's not bad.
You'll develop a quack habit playing that.
You probably will. You need one. I mean, it's 68% it got, didn't it? And I think that's because they sat there and went, what do we give this? Don't know. 68. Give it the 2/3 score. It's got 2 right angles and a wrong angle.
Give it the 2/3. Yeah, it's totally that, isn't it?
Yeah. You can see these games sometimes where they don't know what to do with them. So it gets to 60, mid to sort of high 60s, low 70s. You know, they're the games they're not sure about. They're like,
Is it good? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's funny, yourself crying for no reason.
Yeah.
Just give it 65 or something, 68.
It would explain a lot. There we go. That's our first 3 games. That seems like a long part, but that's our first 3. We're going to go take a quick break. Right. I'm going to have a paracetamol and sit down in a dark room. And then we come back. We're going to look at music for, Christmas, December 1989. So please do stick with us. Welcome back. Let's get some music going. December 1989. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you might like, Graham. Number 1 singles. In at number 1 for the first week, it was You Got It, The Right Stuff. New Kids on the Block.
I don't like it.
Oh, do you not?
Young men in baggy pants jumping in sequence. What on earth is this all about?
I don't know. Didn't I say about this? You shouldn't start a video with a demented scarecrow or someone.
Well, see, I thought that, but that was the other New Kids on the Block one that they released, the previous one.
Oh, was it?
That wasn't The Right Stuff. That was the other one, wasn't it? That was the other single they released. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, I don't know.
From the producer Morris Starr, this.
Okay.
he famously produced New Edition, the American boy band New Edition, or men band, boy band, I don't know what you call them nowadays. And then he had a big fallout with them. And so this was his triumphant return to another boy band, albeit this time he chose, obviously, different ethnicities, should we say. But either way, it was a sound of its time, all that kind of stuff. Not a sound that I liked and still don't. So, no.
No. It wasn't for us, let's just say. After that, the following week, for 1 week, you had Let's Party by Jive Bunny and the Master Mixers.
Honestly, Master Mixers. Tiny music producer hides behind cartoon rabbit and co-ops 60s rock and roll songs with similar BPMs. Arsehole.
For the last 3 weeks of the month, say no more. It was Do They Know It's Christmas by Band-Aid 2.
Oh, gosh, this.
or Elastoplast, as they were called.
Yeah, exactly. I went down a bloody Band-Aid rabbit hole.
We've had a bit of a discussion about this, haven't we? Because this is dreadful. Well, let's just get it out of the way. This is dreadful.
This is dreadful. I mean, let's not pull our punches. Awful.
Yeah. I mean, the cause is noble, without question. We're not knocking why it's done.
No.
It's raising money for a very good cause. That's all great. However, they've butchered a very good song.
Just a bit.
Because they've given it to Stock Aitken and Waterman.
Yeah, and I can see why. I can see for the currency at the time, because they produced everything. Yes. And all of the acts in it are Stock Aitken and Waterman acts. So it was an easy licensing, how do we sort of licensing out for all these acts? They're all under one record label. Oh, that makes things a bit easier.
Yeah.
But it is awful. It's a popped out version of a good song. I mean, Do They Know It's Christmas it's a good song for what it is, the original.
It's a very good song. I really like the original. But
yeah, good. And it's got a really good sentiment and everything else. This version, so bad. It's got bad people in it. I mean, Kylie's in it, fair enough, but there's plenty of people who shouldn't be in there.
No.
So
Cliff Richard's in it.
Because he's Stock Aitken and Waterman at this point, and he sold his soul to bloody Waterman.
Yeah.
So.
But it's just, what got me about it was the fact that they changed the phrasing, tried to make it their own. It's like, don't do that. Because it worked perfectly in the first song. And the first song had become so synonymous and well known. Like, when you start going and you start singing it in a different way, it's like, no. It's not good. So I thought this was just dreadful. Just dreadful.
Yeah, and then later, I mean, that wasn't the end of it, though, because this was the second re-release, this one we're talking about, for 1989. Then there came another one in 2004, which was Band-Aid 20. Now, none of these versions are going home with a glory medal, let me tell you.
No.
That this one, it's bad in a different way, bad.
It's bad from halfway through. I think the first half is better than anything in that Band-Aid 2 thing. That's the thing. I think the first half is up to the point when the rap appears.
I think it's all bad at that point. The piano's too loud. I can't stand that boring singer from Coldplay starting it off. It's Christmas. And it zooms in too close to his face in the video. Way too close. And he goes up his nose. Pull back. You don't need to be that close to him. It's awful. And yes, you're right. So the first part's not great, but it's passable, I suppose. It's trying to capture the sentiment, and then things go wrong. Now, rapping in there, then that clown shoe from the darkness starts singing it, ear-pitting, pigeon-murdering shriek, and his high-pitched, squeaky guitar steps in. It's all going wrong. Wrong. It's not good. I mean, you've said, you've got some big hitters in there, Supertramp, like you said, Bono.
Not Supertramp. Did I say Supertramp? It's not Supertramp. Yeah. It's not Supertramp. It's, I forget what they're called. Sugar. Oh, what are they called?
Sugar Babes.
No, I think they're in it, but they did We Are Young, We Run Free, Keep Our Teeth. Supergrass, not Supertramp. That's what I meant.
But yeah, so it has got some reasonable heavy hitters in there. Travis, which was a Blake Seven enemy as far as I was concerned. Anyway, so it's got them
Radiohead.
In it, but they're not things that are going to save that song. They don't, and unfortunately, they don't. Like we said, the sentiment's okay. But at least it's not got Cliff Richard, and he said that. And I thought, okay, maybe you've got a point, because why is he even in it? Why is he even there? Then, when I went further down the rabbit hole, I found Band-Aid 30.
Oh, that's oof.
Which was released in 2014, and it is truly, truly horrible.
Yeah.
Now, it's got some good singers in there, people who can really sing. So Rita Ora's in there. She's a good singer, no denying it. But there are other people who not so much. Sam Smith kind of honks his way through that. Is that honking? Like, what? Is he singing words?
You'll summon Quack.
Quack's probably in it. Bono's in there again. You can't keep him away, can there? It's just awful. And apparently the reviews of the Band-Aid 30 were really bad, to which they swore they'd never do another one unless they do the original bunch and they do it live, or whoever's left of the original bunch and do it live. So I don't know. It's a bit of a mixed bag in it. I went down that rabbit hole and it just re-released the first one. I don't get why you need to try and contextualize it. And by the way, in that god-awful Band-Aid 30, they changed the lyrics. They actually changed the lyrics of the song.
Yep.
I mean, what brass balls have you got to change a song for charity at Christmas time? Change the lyrics. No. You stink, Bono. You stink, Bono. I'm just blaming him for no reason, really. If that's even your real name, Bono.
It was number one for 3 weeks, which is fine because it raised lots of money. But the original is still the best.
Well, yes, exactly that.
Number one albums. Well, I say albums. It's album. It's just But Seriously by Phil Collins all month.
His face made me laugh on the front of that. It was a meme before it was a meme. So yeah. I created a couple of memes. We'll share them in the... Now, one of those two is a triumph of AI. Can you tell which one it is?
I'm going to say the one on the right.
Yes, it is.
The one with the eyebrows moving.
Now, to get Phil Collins to look like he does in that image, and we'll put it in somehow into the show notes or something, I asked the AI to change the image as if the man in it was smelling a really bad onion. That's the image he came up with. Genuinely, that's real. That's the truth. That is true. The one on the left, I changed his album title to The Egg. I did that one just to see what happened. But that other one that's AI. AI generated Phil Collins smelling a bad onion.
There he is. But seriously. Anyway, it's not a very good album. It's music for dinner parties.
Yes.
But anyway, let's get some singles. 3rd of December. In at number 5 was Get a Life by Soul to Soul. It's a Soul to Soul song.
Yeah, so 10 seconds in, you know what it's going to be. Yeah, straight away. 10 seconds in, I counted, and the drum beat starts.
This observation you've made, though, on their name. I think this needs a bit of exploration. It's quite good.
Their logo is Soul to Soul, right? That's the band name. And there's in their soul, it's not the number 2 or the word 2, it's 2 letter I's, as in like a number 2. Mm-hmm. However, you and I both know, coming from programming type backgrounds, and there are probably people who listen to this podcast that would also think this, maybe, that isn't the symbol of 2. That's the logical operator for an OR, a Boolean OR.
Yeah.
So technically that means their band name is actually Soul or Soul, which makes no sense whatsoever.
None.
So this is a Boolean unfriendly band. Sorry.
It is. It is. It's a ZOR.
It's not even an exclusive OR. It's just shouldn't be. You can't have Soul or Soul.
No, you can't.
Sense.
You either have to have one or the other, and you can't. Well, this one's the same as the other. It's just it's a pointless command. If it's soul or soul.
Exactly.
No.
What you've got there is a Boolean bastard, and we don't like them. We don't like them at all.
We really don't. Oh, God, that's niche. In at number 7 is When You Come Back to Me by Jason Donovan.
Jason Donovan, yeah. It's the SAW formula, isn't it? So,
it is. And there's a bit at the beginning of this where they overlay several Jason Donovans in different actions, which I've taken a screenshot of. It's just, I don't know what they were thinking.
Well, I think there's one on the left that looks like he's tickling the ass cheeks of the one next to him, and he's farting out a cloth.
Yeah, which has made which has made the third one jump in shock. Well, the fourth
really
one
weird.
films it.
Yeah, weird. And it's just a bit odd, isn't it? Chroma key all the way. And just adding a Christmas bell sound into a song, or a bell sound, doesn't make it a Christmas song. But they did that a lot. This was a cheeky way of Christmasizing a record, wasn't it? So it's got that.
It was, yeah.
It's got that effect, yeah.
At number 16, You Surround Me by Erasure.
Not a song I like at all by them, this.
No, it's weird, isn't it? Again, more chroma key usage. It is running rampant at this point.
Over chroma key in this. The giant cake stand, for goodness sake.
And there is lots of Andy Bell arm wave in this as well. He's got that arm wave going.
It does his arm wave, yeah. It does. And clearly he's eating all the cakes on the cake stand because his outfit looks a little bit snug, a little bit tight, around the edges there.
You don't wear that type of pattern, do you, when you've at Christmas? You wear loose fitting plain clothes.
Exactly. He's had a little bit too much Christmas, as we like to say there.
He probably has.
So there you go.
At number 18 is the Amsterdam EP by Simple Minds.
This was a travesty. There's a cover of Prince's Sign of the Times on that, and it's horrible. So avoid. It's horrible.
Yeah, avoid that. Number 21 is The Miracle by Queen.
Not great, is it that? It went a bit wrong.
It's a bit like someone thought it would be cute and funny, but it's kids dressing up as pop stars, which never ages well.
Yeah, as Queen through the ages, isn't it?
As Queen through the ages, but it's the mustachioed, leather-clad Freddie Mercury child that. I was like, oh,
the little boy child in his sort of leotard. I was like, oh, this isn't very good. And then it went to that. I'm like, oh, here we go. He's in the Blue Oyster Bar. It's not a good look. Bit disturbing.
Yeah. And then couple that, the song's boring.
Yeah, it's a really dull song for them as well. They're not going in a good phase at the minute at this point.
No. Number 27 is Sit and Wait by Sidney Youngblood.
The only other hit from Sidney Ford, a.k.a. Sidney Youngblood.
Yeah.
The producer for this was a German guy called Klaus Zundel.
I did not
better
know
known
that.
as The Brave. And he was also better known for a series of albums he made around the chants and dances of Native Americans. There you go.
Who knew? I thought this was inoffensive but bland.
Yeah, exactly that. I just didn't figure that a native German would know a lot about Native American chants, but apparently they do.
Who knows? And at number 30 is Donald, Where's Your Truces, 1989.
Yeah, you found a good blurb about that, I see.
Yeah, so this seems to... I mean, obviously it's the re-release of the old 6-1. Donald, Where's Your Truces? And we thought it was an advert. I seem to remember it was an advert. But it's actually... the re-release happened when BBC DJ Simon Mayo played the song on the Radio 1 Breakfast Show in November 1989. It's gone to Wikipedia and then responded to listeners' requests for replays. We were in the mood for novelty nonsense, so we kept playing it, he said. Sonic Records then quickly arranged to deal with the EMI to release a song on the Stone label as a Christmas single, a market in which novelty songs often did well. Mayo continued to give it much airplay, and the song was number 4 in the UK singles chart at Christmas. So there you go. That's how this got in the charts. That's the state of British music, isn't it? We love our novelty nonsense, and it can be turned around that quickly. There you go. Number 35 is Whenever God Shines His Light by Van Morrison and Cliff Richard.
Right.
this thing. Your comment, it made me laugh loads. Cliff Richard lost at his local Dunelm. It did look like that. It's like he's it's like someone needs to help him. He's got lost in the curtains section.
Yeah, he's trapped in the voil, isn't he? He's like, get my phone out. I mean, what an awful song that is, isn't it? Definitely the product of 2 drunken producers on a night out who said, we should get Van Morrison and Cliff Richard together. That'd be great. And that became flesh. And it is not great.
It is not. What I want to know what language Van Morrison is singing in. Because it sounds like I thought he was trying to raise demons.
He did.
Yeah, Cliff Richard.
Yeah, he appeared. He wasn't even in the video originally. He started singing his little chant. And with that, he summoned the Richard, didn't he?
Summoned the Richard. It's like brought forth the dick.
Well, you summoned him. He came. Yeah.
It really is.
Cliff Richard came. Did he? Oh. Get the mop, Deirdre. Richards has been in again.
He's left his mistletoe and wine all over the floor.
Whack. Quack. Don't go. Oh, he's got his feet in it and everything. Don't paddle it round.
Absolutely.
Oh, God, it's like super glue. Never get that off.
Not with those webbed feet.
Goodness me, that's like dried toothpaste already.
Number 38. It's the Hit Mix, the official bootleg mega mix by Alexander O'Neill.
Very of its time, very nightclubs of the 90s. That Brown Sauce probably know more about the origin of all that. So there was a bit of a trend. There's a load of Alexander O'Neill tracks of that time mixed into one hit. So they did quite a few of those. We'll come across a few of those now, I think, but this is one of them. It's all right. I heard it loads when I was going out and about in clubs at that time. So
yeah. Number 39 is Broke Away by Wet Wet Wet.
A gushy brown splasher of a song.
Quack, be careful.
No. Oh, no.
Old Knee Neck is here to please one of our patrons' wives.
Yeah, I noticed one of the patrons had put that we were upsetting his wife because she liked Wet Wet Wet. And I'm like,
Marty Pellow and Wet Wet Wet. Well, it's
all women liked Marty Pellow and Wet Wet Wet, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
It was like a rule.
Next time you think of him, though, just think of the gushy brown splasher. A washing Watsits.
Did it look like to you they were performing parts of that video in a Turkish prison cell? It did to me.
Yeah, I saw them filming Midnight Express in the background.
Exactly.
So
hence the gushy brown splasher, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In at number 41 is 20 Seconds to Comply by Silver Bullet.
At last, a good track, this. Brilliant rap record. Oh, no, I remember Brown Sauce being very effusive about this and Bring Forth the Guillotine, which was the other track by Silver Bullet, I think. This was a great track. We loved it. It mixed RoboCop and rap. We're going to like that. That's fodder for Gary and, us big filmy nerds, RoboCop nerdy people as well. You must like it as well. Features in the main fight sequence in the film The World's End, if you're wondering what it sounds like.
It is. I'm not a big rap fan, but I listened to this and I thought this was very good. I like its ferocity.
Yes.
Just takes no prisoners, this song. It's just like, Here we go. As soon as it gets going, that guy can rap at a pace with some power.
I think he was famous for being a really fast rapper. I remember Gary telling me all about Silver Bullet. I think he's English, British guy.
He's very good.
Pretty amazing stuff, actually. And it's like I said, the follow-up to that, as I remember it, or it could be the one before it, because I could have the lineage of these. This is where we need Brown Sauce to correct us, but he did a track called Bring Forth the Guillotine, which was kind of like, bring forth, just as angry, actually.
But
really
good.
Very good stuff. Really good, yeah. Recommended.
Unlike at number 42, which was Listen to Your Heart by Sonia.
More numbers by the old Stock Aitken and Waterman again, wasn't it, this?
Yeah, it's just... Ugh.
She wasn't stalking anyone in this one.
No, because they'd replaced all the... There's just no people apart from her in the video, aren't there? They just had suits dancing.
Yeah, she's been trapped in a cube. Yeah.
She really has, in a nightmare of horrible clothes.
Just trapped in a charity shop trying on all the clothes. I bet that was actually real. She just went into a charity shop and just took over. They're like, is she ever going to leave? Get her out of here. You know, people aren't coming in because of her. She's upsetting everybody.
She's stalking the clerk.
I suppose she broke the singer archetype, right? In many ways. I'd say it was progressive. If only I spoke Jovitos, which I don't.
But you don't. Number 45 is Living in Sin by Bon Jovi.
Good track, that is, by them.
Yeah, it's all right.
You know, yeah, good.
Yeah, good ballad. Heavy on sleeveless tops in the video, though.
They were well into it, weren't they? They were well sleeveless.
There's barely any material on Sambora's top. He's got a low neck down to his belly button.
Well, you know, he isn't actually wearing a shirt. That's just the way his skin forms. It's weird, isn't it? He's got a natural body shirt.
It's all the sweat that's built up from Bon Jovi flicking his hair at him.
Oh, God, yeah, it's formed like a lacquer. Lacquer. Anyway, good video, heavy on message, dodgy black and white stuff in it, lots of fingers in mouths, but a really nice guitar solo in there, isn't there, along the way? It's not bad. It's a good song. When they do a ballad, they're like Aerosmith. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, that chorus is a proper cracker.
Yeah,
it's a
Christmas
Christmas
really
cracker, that one. Good chorus.
Is.
Number 50 is La Luna by Belinda Carlisle. Is this her La Isla Bonita?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. I guess it's that kind of slow vibe in it with her trapped on a bed.
Sort of Latin, sort of Spanish type vibe to it, that sort of Spanish guitar.
She's obviously gone and stayed the night at Sam Fox's house because she's trapped in a bed with a giant wind machine again.
Absolutely.
Like, just take that wind machine out your bedroom so people can sleep at night. Bloody hell, Fox.
Fox!
Bit of a saucy video on it. She's glued to the bed with what we don't want to say.
I think it's
teenagers' dreams.
Cliff Richard's Mistletoe Wine, I think.
Ugh, goodness me. That's the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, it really is. Number 53 is Uninvited Guest, speaking of that, by Marillion.
The Marillion fans will like that one a lot. It's not terrible, but...
Trad dad rock.
Yeah, it is properly, isn't it? It's just kind of, it's the Marillion effect. It sounds like a load of other bands. You could never remember who they are. That's the Marillion effect.
Yeah, true. 10th of December, in at number 1, we've already spoken about it, Let's Party by Jive Bunny and the Master Mixers. Let's not.
Yeah.
At number 9 is Dear Jessie by Madonna.
What is this?
I don't know. What happened? What they said to me is when Madonna says she ain't got time for a video, you saw it.
Yeah, and then the guy listened to the song and took a whole bag of magic mushrooms and then animated his mind. It's like, what the hell is going on in that video?
Best not to think about it. It's not a particularly great Madonna song.
No, it's awful. I think it's something to do with some young person. I don't bloody know. I watched it. I was like, what the hell were you smoking?
No, I didn't like it. Number 23 is Getting Away With It by Electronic.
For some reason, I thought you'd like this, and then I realised that you don't.
No, I can't stand Electronic. Can't stand him.
Makes sense.
I've never did. I never liked him. The bland, banal ass really rubbed me the wrong way. It's like a worse Lightning Seeds.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good description. Plus, if you take the worst parts of New Order, the Smiths and the Pet Shop Boys, this is what you'd get.
Yeah. Getting away all my life. It's just Bernard Sumner is. I've had a bit of a think about it recently, sort of thing, and I think he's just been a very lucky person to be surrounded by decent musicians.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think he's obviously got something. But I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, Johnny Marr is an incredible guitarist.
Johnny Marr's a great guitarist. Yeah, that's what I mean. See, he just surrounds himself, and Peter Hook's a really good bassist, and the drummer and the keyboardist, and Ian Curtis and stuff. These people were talent, and I just think Bernard Sumner's just a bit like, not my thing. I really didn't like this. Number 32 is Sister by Bros.
Stupid.
Bros, brothers,
Stupid.
sister. You're right. The pitch of his voice was way higher than I expected too when it started.
And I was like, hey, what's going on? He's been tweaked by somebody. Somebody's tweaked him, and not in a good way.
But you've noticed here that there's only one Sister Brothers, and that was the Trevor Simon clip, which made me laugh loads.
Rocking and a rolling, ducking and a diving.
Choosing and a buying my cheap records from the bargain bin.
Which ironically was Jive Bunny, because they go through the record collection, get Jive Bunny and chuck it away because they hate it.
Yeah. Come on, everybody.
I loved the Sister Brothers when they did it. It was like, they stuck in a dive and rocking on, fixing and amending my bike. Brilliant. Go and watch all of them immediately.
Yeah, they're very good. Don't listen to this, though. It's arse.
No, it's rubbish.
In at number 36 is Burning the Ground by Duran Duran. This is weird, isn't
remix. It? Yeah, remix track.
It's just all I could think was, hey, remember when we wrote good songs?
Yeah, exactly. This is all the ones we did, yeah. It's a remix track. It was released to coincide with their greatest hits album, which was called Decade at the time. It's a very thumpy version. They've had an extra wallop and thump to, haven't they? And it's good because it's their good tracks. If they'd have done the same thing with the other tracks, it wouldn't have been nearly as good, would it? It
would be bad. But you do remember, when you do listen to this, you're like, God, they wrote loads of really good tracks in those early period, the early 80s. They were on fire, but they lost that fire.
Yes, they did.
Finally, in number 51 is December, ironically, by All About Eve.
No, okay song.
It's okay. Right. It's emblematic. This is the emblematic song of the second album, really. It's all right, but it's not up to the highs of the first album for me. Her voice is still excellent.
Yeah, it just loses subtlety. I felt it just gave way to that MOS sound. I think you've been sort of indicating that as we've gone through, and a number of these tracks have popped up off this second album. They'd lost a bit of their magic, and it has a really tragic guitar solo in it. It's just her voice is shimmering all the way through. And she's way better than this song and all the other songs. And in the video, she looked really awkward, which she's telling me that she's not happy. And you can sort of see why when you hear this.
Yeah, we said before, I mean, her and Tim Bricknose, the guitarist, had broken up, and she spent the entire recording album and crying and sad. And so I think it's just reflected in a lot of things around this. So it's what it is.
Poor thing.
Yeah. 17th of December, we've already spoken it, and it's straight to number 1 was Do They Know It's Christmas by Elastoplast. In at number 25 is The Magic Number, double A side probably with Buddy by De La Soul.
Bit of a classic, innit? 3 is the magic number. 1, 2, 3 is a great track.
Yeah, it still works today as well because it's used to great effect over the end credits of the recent Spider-Man film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No Way Home the end bit. Because obviously the 3 Spider-Men in it. But it works really well. So yeah, good song. Not much to say about it, but just a good classic.
Yeah, double A side. Buddy was good as well. Yeah, good De La Soul stuff. You can't really go wrong.
Number 33 is Words by the Christians.
The Christians.
Why is it called Words with Words?
I don't know. I think that's just the YouTube version because it's got the words in it, I think.
Oh, it's got the lyrics on it. I was confused.
Yeah. They could have just put lyrics, couldn't they? It gave me an American Wealth in London vibe, the video. They're just walking down 6 of the roads, lad. Watch the moors.
I thought it looked like blurry outcuts from the intro to Coast.
Yeah, it ain't good, is it? It ain't nice. It's boring. Not. What a boring band that is. Boring. Ugh, no.
Number 42 is Inner City Mama by Nana Cherry.
Oh, this stupid thing. Is it me, or did, at the beginning of this, the guy who lit it made her look like that Nana Cherry had a mustache at the start and later like she had like dagger teeth? I know, maybe she has those things and that's all good. But it just looked quite terrifying, I thought. And she's an otherwise attractive lady for that. The song is just completely meh, though. Ugh.
Yeah, not for me, this. No. Number 81 is Shadow Mix by The Shadows.
Oh, yeah. Guess what?
It's another mixtape.
Someone heard Jive Bunny and thought, we need a good remix like that. The Shadows. They don't. Somebody thought that, and then they made this happen, and then it became, and then they came. Sea greens and protein.
Fish and plankton, sea greens and protein from the sea. And then it stopped coming, and they came instead.
and Marvin's from the sea.
Marvin's from the sea. So the Jive Shadows sounds like a Chicago soul band from the mid-70s.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I'm going to see the Jive Shadows.
Yeah, doing like a funked out version of Shadow songs. That'd be quite cool. Not these ones, though.
Not these ones. Christmas Eve, we had in at number 69 is Destiny, Autumn Love by Elektra.
I can guarantee you won't like that, but you'll have heard it.
I didn't. I didn't. It was boring. It's very boring.
Yeah, it's just it's
really dull.
Of its time house, yeah.
Yeah. Number 82, Sally Cinnamon by the Stone Roses.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, you've said it, horrible Smiths like overtones. I can see it, but I think it just lacks the horrible sort of, what's the word for the Smiths? Knowingness, or, aren't I clever? That sometimes the Smiths just reek of. It feels just quite innocent, just twee and nice, this track. Has a nice innocence to it, which probably doesn't.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I agree with that. I mean, when I say Smith's overtones, I think it's just his vocal tonally. Thematically, it's quite interesting. And it has got a great guitar and drumming in it, though. And give all fairness.
The musicianship really is as strong as ever, as always, by the
really good, yeah, absolutely.
Number 98, Dexterous by Nightmares on Wax.
very early influential sort of, I don't even know you'd call this really. This is kind of a bit of a pioneering, almost like break hop, hip trip hop kind of early Warp records. I think it's their second only release on Warp, on the actual label itself. Pushing the envelope a little bit with its use of soundscapes and sounds. They're using sounds that you don't normally hear in that kind of thing. So it is quite interesting. And there's a really good article that I found on 909originals.com, which I'll pop into the show notes, which is quite interesting. It's an interesting track if you like that kind of thing. It's not everyone's cup of tea, though, that.
It reminded me of some of the stuff that you did on Octomed.
Probably done. It's probably done on a tracker. Could easily have been.
It sounded quite trackerish.
Yeah, totally get that. It's just, I think it's just using, again, it's using some of those sounds in a non-traditional way. So it's probably got Roland 808s and 909s and some of those early techno pieces of kit, not necessarily using them in the way that everyone else is using them. So if you compare this to the kind of house sounds that we've been already bemoaning and some of the others, sticks out like a sore thumb. It's very different to that. Interesting because of that. But you've got to like that kind of thing, haven't you? If you don't, it's just going to be like lots of clicks and a bit of throwback almost to sort of early Kraftwerk actually in some ways as well, because they famously did all of that. So it's quite good.
New Year's Eve, if you fancied some new singles, you could have gone got Hanging Tough by New Kids on the Block.
That's the other one I was thinking of. Hanging Tough. Yeah, rubbish.
They all sound the same. I can't be doing with them. In at number 24 is Hey You by the Choir Boys.
I'd forgotten this song existed and you made it come back into my mind, you evil man. I actually hate this song. I realised I hate it. And then I hadn't thought about it in so long that it just erased itself. And then I put it on, it was like, hey, you, what can I do? I remember going, oh my God, I remember even talking about this back in the day going, this is awful.
Yeah.
So bad.
It is.
So bad.
And they do, like you say, hit every rock video cliche in the first 5 seconds of the video. There's backlight on a stage, he swings the thing around, flicks his thing, the guitarist does a twirl, all of it. It's all there.
So
everything.
Bad.
And there's so many close-ups of his face as well that just make you go, ah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, these little twitchy bits in the video, because the frame rate's obviously got problems, so it kind of skips a bit, which made me laugh. The singer is like Rod Stewart f***ed Steve Tyler from Aerosmith, and the product of that union formed the singer of the Choir Boys, part gravel and part scarf. Some interesting notes, a couple of things to note. They were from Newcastle. I thought they were from the US, but they're from Newcastle.
No, I know they're British.
Sharon Osbourne was their manager, she of the Osbournes. Huh? And they had over 22 different members in that band over the years. That's more than Spinal Tap.
It is. So, none of the original members are still in it, I imagine. Or maybe they are. Who knows?
I don't know. They had a massive fallout very recently with the original lead singer, so I suspect not.
Oh, good Lord.
In fact, I think they're called the London Choir Boys because of a weird argument between some of the band members. So there's a version of them called the London Choir Boys. Yeah, totally. The new originals.
the new Thamesmen. The originals. Number 26 is Big Wedge by Fish.
Yeah. Now, I found the top of the Pops performance of this. You have to go and watch it to believe it.
Yeah, you do.
You have to just go and watch what that happens in that. And if you ever wonder what happens when a fish is out of water, they flap around, they gasp for air and die. And that is what happens in that performance.
Yeah,
quite spectacularly. Awful. It's so bad.
Pish, more like.
He's wearing an American flag top hat, and that's just the start of it.
Well, he's wearing an Uncle Sam outfit, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. It's not good.
No, it's not.
It's not. Why?
I don't know.
What's that got to do with Big Wedge?
It might be money or something like that, I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm not going to listen to the lyrics and analyse it because I don't care.
No, never do.
Number 30 is Queen of the New Year by Deacon Blue.
No.
That video you found from Top of the Pops, he's got proper loosey-goosey in of the hand, hasn't he?
He has. He's honestly, his hand's loose and it's going to come off. He's like flicking it and spinning out. Like, that hand's coming off in a minute, mate.
No one's wrist does that. I mean, I've heard, what's going on?
Honestly, just before he went on, he's like, oh no, me hand's going to fall off. I was only got anything I can tighten a wrist with. So my wrist wrench is in the van. Oh, damn it. I'll just have to wiggle it around like it's pretend it's not loose.
I'll just have to hopefully it won't flop too hard.
I was thinking it was going to fly off and hit someone. And also in that terrible miming, terrible gap in the teeth as well. That's people are who they are, but when it's that close up to the camera, it's like, goodness me. I haven't seen a gap in the teeth like that's frightened me since Franco Columbo in Pumping Iron. So...
And you've been on safari.
I've been on many safaris.
Number 33 is Got to Have Your Love, featuring One Dress by Mantronics. Featuring One Dress.
You must have heard that a million times in clubs. Yeah. Everyone's heard it. But the sad part there is Wondrous Hutchinson, who was an amazing singer and vocalist for a lot of Mantronics stuff, passed away in May 2021.
Yeah. As soon as that bass line started, I was like, oh, yeah, it's that. I reckon it's that.
Yeah. As soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, it's that. Yeah.
And finally, number 36 is Put Your Hands Together by D-Mob.
Yeah, I remember listening to that with Gary. It's a good track, it is. It's hip-hop house kind of vibes, but, it's all right. You can't go wrong with D-Mob. They're okay. They're always good.
Albums, 3rd of December. In at number 2 is Jive Bunny, the album by Jive Bunny and the Master Mixers. And I can imagine, how did this get to number 2? People were buying this, an entire album of this.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. How did that rabbit not catch mixomatosis or mixomatosis, maybe?
Hey! It was right there, staring us in the face.
It was. How did we not get it? I know. I'm quite proud of that.
Number 8 is Hanging Tough by New Kids on the Block.
Hang out somewhere else. Go out. Get off my land. You're upsetting Quack.
Number 9 is Labour of Love 2 by UB40.
9th album, that.
Yeah.
9 whole albums of appropriation of some other genre, some other culture genre of music.
Yeah, let's say no more about it.
Yeah, UB shit, UB.
Number 27 is Presto by Rush.
Over to you, because it's not an album I've ever really sort of listened to, ever, actually.
No, I mean, obviously I have. I gave it another listen today, actually, because I saw it was on here. And I do like this album. I really do. Just to note sort of thing from what it says on Wiki, I presume Presto marked another change in Rush's sound, with guitar taking a more dominant role in the writing. Anyway, but to me, this was always a weak sounding album. It's not as strong. It's not as thick. It's not as well thingy. The mix is thin on this, and it marked the first time they've worked with Rupert Hine as producer. He would always also work with them on the following album, Roll the Bones, which has a similar sound. It's not terrible, but it marks the start of the weakest period in their history for most fans, and me included, I think. There's a lack of drumming on it as well, weirdly. Now, I'm not knocking the drumming or the quality of the musicianship throughout it, because it is as excellent as ever, but it's way more reliant on just bass snare drum fills.
Okay.
Which is strange. If you listen, I've put the intro to Show Don't Tell, which is one of the singles from it, the main single from it. Just listen to the intro to it and you think there should be loads of Neil Peart, crazy madness going on like he normally does, but it's not. It's all drums and bass fills. It's weird. So it seems much more restrained, which I don't know. And it's kind of emblematic of this album. And yeah, it gets rid of the synths a lot. But it's because obviously the last couple of albums, but it goes back to more traditional guitar bass. But the production is just not strong enough to counter their mission. It's not terrible. It's not the worst album though, but it's certainly weaker than anything that came before it, I think. It does, however, have the single on it called, not the single, I think it might be the single, The Pass, which is one of my favourite songs of theirs. It's a solid album. It's good. It's just, I mean, most Rush albums are good, apart from probably Test for Echo. It's a step in a weak, I don't know, it's a bit of a strange direction, this one. It's a bit odd. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what they were chasing. They just didn't seem to, it seemed not one thing or the other. It's like not a good enough rock sound, and it's not a good enough, so they're sort of missing anything, whereas before they had stuff. Anyway, but it's all right. In at number 45 is the Joe Longthorne Christmas album by Joe Longthorne.
It is what it is, isn't it? It's odd. The track listing is a bit weird for that, because it doesn't have every song on it isn't a Christmas song. In fact, the opening song on it is not a Christmas song.
Is it not?
Which is a little bit odd. No. I thought it a little bit weird. So if you go, because we've got 2 Christmas compilation albums, one after another. So Joe Longthorne starts with Wonderful World. I see trees of blue.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's got Morning Has Broken. Then My Love for You. Then Bridge Over Troubled Water. Then track number 5 is the Christmas song.
Just to put one in.
I'm just thinking, Wonderful World, Morning Has Broken, My Love for You, Bridge Over Troubled Water. They're not exclusively happy Christmas songs, are they really?
Not. Also at number 11, it's got one called If I Never Sing Another Song, which is something we can all hope for.
I mean, it's famous, Joe Longthorne, he was from Hull, wasn't he? So, Hull born, I guess. But it seems odd that there's just an odd choice of non-Christmas songs on a album called Christmas Album.
He looks really uncomfortable on that chair as well.
Yes, he is, because he's trying to hatch an egg. We'll talk about that another day.
Probably is. At number 55, we have the Foster and Allen Christmas album by Foster and Allen.
This one's got actual Christmas tracks. The first track on that, Silent Night. The second track, An Old Christmas Card. The third track, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But then it's The Greatest Love of All, which I'm guessing is the Whitney Houston song. Okay. What's going on?
I don't know.
I don't know about you, but the idea of Foster and Allen singing that is a great thing to me. I don't know. But again, it's not fully a Christmas album. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know.
10th of December. In at number 2 is At Their Very Best by The Shadows.
Can't you tell Christmases are coming here?
Yeah.
Everyone's releasing best ofs and God knows what. There's a footnote. There's an interesting footnote, Adrian, about the shadows themselves. So here it is. They'd split from their long-standing record label at this point, which was EMI. They've been with EMI for years. And when they wanted to release the very best of album, EMI would not release their original recordings to them to do it. So they're not having them. Which is odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they went into the studio and recorded them exactly the same way with exactly the same equipment 30 years later. And they sound exactly the same. No surprise then, really.
No surprise there, no.
No, exactly. Note for note accurate they are. So you'd think you might use that opportunity after 30 years to enhance them in some way, but not the shadows. No.
Like you can't enhance perfection.
Funny, Hank Marvin's got that on his T-shirt, actually, which is ironic.
With a picture of Buddy Holly.
But yeah, so it's not actually the original recordings of the Shadows at their very best. It's 30 years later. So technically, is that them at their very worst? Really,
maybe.
I don't
maybe. Know. At number 45 is The Greatest Hits by ELO.
Yeah, got Mr. Blue Sky on it, no doubt, and all the others that
Wild
I
West
don't
Hero.
know. Yeah, and what's it called? The one with the woman in the title? Is it Woman Lover? Or I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah, I always think I know lots of ELO songs, and then it's like the candy of 1,000 uses. It's like
I know one, maybe two.
Yeah, and you're like, but my brother used to play loads of them, and then I'm like, I can't remember any.
Yeah. I remember remember seeing their videos with the big spaceships and thinking they're cool, but yeah. I remember one song, maybe two.
I was like the fact that the lead singer was Bev Bevan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what's his name? That guy that you did you went to a fancy dress party as the guy from ELO at the time.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Looked dead like him. And at number 57 is 90 by 808 State.
Pacific States on that. We talked about that the last time, didn't we? Not a group I followed, really. Wafty techno trance. I don't like that kind of... I like a good bit of kick bass drive to get me interested. That kind of donk kind of sound. I like that. I like that kind of... Not happy hard house or whatever you call it. Happy house or whatever it is. The stuff you get at the horrible goose fairs and things like that. None of that. On the waltzers, none of that, that kind of stuff. But I do like a good bit of, techno and stuff like that.
I do. There's only one album released on the 17th of December, and it seems like there's a bit of a story behind this one. This is at number 42. Jose Carreras sings Andrew Lloyd Webber by Jose Carreras.
There is. So buckle in, because this is all factually accurate stuff. So it does exactly what it says in the tin. This odd record, Adrian, reflects the period between February and August 1989 where Jose Carreras would follow Andrew Lloyd Webber around everywhere and sing everything Webber said in spoken word. In meetings, at home, in a taxi, on a plane, during intercourse, at lunch or dinner, at engagements, weddings, funerals, parties. Any spoken word from Webber was interpreted and sung loudly by Carreras right then and right there. At the end of the experiment, Webber was heard to say, and this is a quote, "If that prick sings another fucking word, I'll cut his bastard tongue out and stab him," and later described the experience as the worst few months of his life. Jose ruined my friend's wedding and even the funeral of an elderly relative. I hope he chokes on a chicken bone, the stupid That's the direct quote. This is the album of that anyway.
Wow. That needs to be set to our tune.
Might do that, actually.
Oh, that was it. And then New Year's Eve,
just when you think it can't get weirder.
Just when you think, this is Love Songs by Dionne Warwick at number 46. It's a greatest hit song. Yeah. And she recently appeared on The Masked Singer as Weather.
She did, yeah. A career high, maybe.
That's a bit, what the actual fuck? What is that?
That's just Dionne Warwick with a cloud head and lightning coming out of her ears.
I can't do it. I can't.
This is the world famous Dionne Warwick, who sang "Why Do You Have to Be a..." And more importantly, that sang "Walk on by." I mean, what?
A Time Trumpet has become a documentary.
It actually has. So,
if you'd have put on Time Trumpet in the future, world-class singers will sing on a thing where we just have to guess who they are, or maybe not, and they'll be dressed up as Weather.
Honestly, yes.
Or Richie Sambora was dressed up as what? A potato. A jacket potato. I'm sorry. What you face, Armand. Get out. You've gone too far. Armand Iannucci, you've gone too far.
At the moment, the contestants at the moment are, I believe it's Maypole, Dippy Egg. The one was Weather. I can't remember them all now. They're all. It's mad. It's a mad program of mad things happening. really crazy. And there's just these celebrities that have to guess about answering clues. It's like the world's gone mad. The world's gone mad. And when they take off their heads, when they shout, they chant, all the audience chants, take it off. And when Dionne Warwick had her cloud head and lightning ears removed, there was Dionne Warwick in a little hoodie going, oh yeah, it's Dionne Warwick. You're like, it's Dionne fucking Warwick. This is the equivalent of pulling the mask away from, I don't know, some character called, Badger, take the head off, and it's bloody Aretha Franklin in there. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I just did it for a laugh. It's funny. It's like, oh my God, look at yourself.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Richie Sambora as a potato. My heart sank, and I'm still struggling to come to terms with that.
I know, I can tell. Oh, anyway, let's round off this music. So at number 55 is Pump Up the Jam by Technotronic.
Yes, that's actually a much better album than it sounds like, because every track sounds like that. But it's a debut album. I don't think they did another one. And obviously it's got Felly in it. It wasn't actually Felly. It was lip-synced. She lip-synced the actual person who did the, Pump Up the Jam was somebody called Yarkid K, who then appears in later videos. Anyway, good thumpy Euro dance stuff. The Roland SH-101 in full effect. And a default setting that is as well for the bass. That bum, 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 ba-da-da, bum, bum, bum. That bass sound that's really famous in the Technotronic stuff. That's a default setting on the Roland SH-101 as well. Mad.
Can't argue with
that. Actually, it's gated a little bit with a little bit of delay echo on it, reverb. But that's what it is. So, good stuff.
Dionne Warwick as the weather.
There's a highlight.
There's a highlight. All right, that's it. That's your music. That was Christmas. That's what we were listening to. It's not good, but that's what we had to listen to. So there we go. All right, on that note, I think we're going to take a break because I'm still looking at that picture and I can't get over it. But we're going to take a break. God, my brain's just fried.
I like the way underneath that picture you've written, what the actual sums it up perfectly.
Yeah, it does. We're going to take a break. I'm going to gather my wits. We'll come back. We've still got 3 games to get through, so we'll see you in a bit. Yes, we're back, and 3 more games to get through. So let's waste no time. Let's get straight into it. Our first one, it's another arcade conversion, Graham. Another one. It is Cabal. Cabal. How do you pronounce it? Cabal. Cabal. It's another arcade. It's from Ocean. This is from Ocean. It's £9.99, and it's got 89%.
Did it now?
89%. It did, yeah. This was originally released in the arcades in 1988. It was designed by TAD Corporation, which was a small maker of video games that had been set up by former employees of Data East.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Aside from this, they only made like a handful of games, about 6, I think. Most well-known of those was Toki. You remember Toki? T-O-K-I?
I remember Toki, vaguely.
Yeah. Weirdly, this was published in Japan by Taito. It was published in the US by Fabtech, and in Europe, it was published by Capcom. So weird sort of publishing rights all over the place. In Japan, Graham, Games Machine listed Cabal on their November 1st, 1988 issue as being the 8th most successful table arcade unit of the month.
Higher than 8, we say. Oh.
That's 8. It was ported to everything, as most of these things were. The C64 port was developed by Special Effects. It was produced by Paul J. Finnegan, coded by Robert W. Tinman. Here he is.
I love you, Toto.
It is, but we also got graphics by Karen and Ivan Davis. This is the right family affair, this one. It was coded by Robert Tinman, graphics by Karen and Ivan Davis. The loading screen was by Karen Davis, and the musician was Keith Tinman.
Oh, okay. The Tinman and the Davises.
Tinman and the Davises, yeah. I presume they're all related. They might not be. They might just have the same surname in some weird coincidence, but I'm probably guessing they are. The loading screen's another good one by Karen Davis, because she did the excellent visuals and that loading screen on Batman the Cape Crusader, which we praised at the time. Right. And it has the infamous image of that guy looking over his shoulder at you and pointing to loads of helicopters heading for them. Everyone knows that image and picture. It's become synonymous. Once it loads, you get a title screen. It's got the logo at the top and a cycling screen of text explaining the basic story, which is basic, just shoot shit, and the credits. We also get a pretty solid piece of music from Keith Tinman, I thought I quite like this music. It's all right. Not too bad. Bit short, but it's okay. It's a good start, and pressing the fire button loads in the first set of levels. Yes, it's a multi-load, but I thought the multi-load in this was not too egregious due to the nature of the game. So it's all right. Because the game's split into 5 levels, each with 4 stages to get through. So each load is a single level containing those 4 stages. So it's not so bad. When the first stage loads in, we're given some options to start with. It's kind of weird. You kind of got the game screen, and then there's just a load of options in the middle. So it's like the first background and some options. Kind of a bit, I don't know, it felt a bit cheap in comparison to what had sort of come before it. So it could have been a little bit better. Like those options probably should have been before the multi-load.
Yeah, I agree.
If that makes sense. But we get some options anyway. We can play 1 or 2 players. We can decide whether to play with joystick or keys, whether to have sound effects off or on. So we can either have sound effects or silence, which is kind of a weird option. And then we can start the game. So that's it. So this review is primarily based around the single player mode because that's what I played. But I did try the 2-player mode because in the arcade, it has both of you on screen at once, running back and forth and shooting stuff. It's my understanding from looking at it, I think. But here, you take it in turns to do each stage, which is a bit odd. Something of a letdown, I think. So it's not very different to the single-player mode, except you just take it in turns when you've completed a stage or when you die or something. Anyway, when the game starts, so you control an armed sprite. You're this guy at the bottom. You're facing into the screen. It's kind of like a pseudo 3D shooter. Someone say it's akin to Operation Wolf, except you can see the player rather than it being first person. So it's like a third person Operation Wolf, but it doesn't scroll. You walk along at the bottom of the screen along a 2D plane, and in front of you, there are some barricades, which you can hide behind. And further into the screen, there's a series of buildings, walls, and trees. And these change from stage to stage. They'll become like other buildings. There'll be trees. There'll be planes and boats and walls and all kinds of different things. So they're in the sort of distances going into the distance. Controls are simple enough, left and right to move, and you also control a crosshair. So you walk left and right, but at the same time, there's a crosshair moving about, which is in the sort of up on the top of the screen, the higher part of the screen. Moving up or down, while it's moving left or right, will move that crosshair up and down as well as left or right with you. So it kind of sticks where it is. Moves left or right with you, but you can sort of move it up or down by using the up and down diagonals. If you hold the fire button, that cements you in place. So it cements you where you are. You stop moving. And then you've got free control over the crosshair, and you can move that crosshair all over the screen while shooting a never-ending supply of bullets. You never run out. You're just spraying the screen with bullets. It's kind of cool. You can also press space to throw a grenade at where you are aiming, where the crosshair is. But you only have 10 of those to start with. But you can pick up more as you go along. The game starts slowly, enemy troops wandering on from the sides of the screen, and you must basically just rake your crosshair across them whilst holding fire. This is not a game that requires precision, and I like it for that reason. That was one of the things we said about Operation Wolf, which was just you had to be too precise. This is not that. You just spray gunfire everywhere, and as soon as your crosshair hits them, they go down. They're dead. It's like there's no, it's not about, got to be the right pixel. It's just as soon as that crosshair hits someone, poof, they're dead. Bye. Yeah. So that's cool. More and more start to come on, and these will be followed by more and more enemies sort of thing. Enemy troops start to come on from left and right. So it gets quite tricky because you're having to run, move, and walk about and try and get them all so they're all over the place. And this is followed by armoured vehicles such as tanks, troop transporters, where soldiers get out of and start shooting you, helicopters that spray the sort of, towards you with bullets, jets drop bombs and they fly towards you. There's loads of stuff. There's loads of enemies, loads of bombs, loads of different types of stuff just going on. And it's everything shoots at you, and you got to keep on the move, and you got to really pick your moment when to shoot back because they're pretty crack shots. The enemies, they'll be shooting at you all the time. There'll be bombs and stuff getting thrown at you, so you can't stay in one place for long. I also like the fact that when you throw your grenades as well, they've got quite a large explosive radius, so you don't have to be that precise. Like enemies just even nearby will get blown up from them. This game likes you killing people. It's not stingy on that. So that I like that. I thought that was good. The buildings and walls and the barricades in the environment can all be destroyed if you hit them with enough shots or grenades. So you can basically just reduce the environment in front of you to rubble. There's no indication that it's taking damage, but everything pretty much takes damage. And then after a little while, it sort of crumbles and just disappears. So you can open up, because if the enemy's walking behind the buildings and stuff, you can't shoot at them. But once you've opened up the landscape, you can just shoot them all over the place. So that's quite cool, and that's quite nice. But also your barricades, which are at the bottom, can also be destroyed by enemy gunfire. And so they only take one shot, so they don't last long at all. So hiding behind them is not a key to winning the level, because there's more bullets will just be coming at you. So you've got to keep on the move all the time. The game itself takes place 3 takes place across most of the screen. There's a few lines at the top and bottom for the UI. So at the top, you've got the number of lives, which is represented by a heart icon. You start with 5 lives, but you can get extra lives at 10,000 points. And you and player 2, so player 1 and player 2 score are both on there in a big old yellow font, one underneath one, player 1 at the top, player 1 underneath that. At the bottom, there's a big blue bar labeled foe, just foe, F-O-E. As you shoot more enemies, this slowly fills up with red, and that's the aim of the game. So should you fill it completely, you complete the stage, and you move on to the next one. Essentially, that's it. So you just have to keep shooting and surviving to fill up that bar, and then once it is, you move on to the next stage. There's also a grenade indicator next to that bar with a number telling you how many you have left, and that's it. As you work your way through the stages, blasting certain things will rain down, will sort of bounce down like extra grenades and pickups. So you can get, you pick up extra grenades, you get bonuses, so better score, you get better guns as well. And you just basically walk into these to activate them. As soon as you walk into it, they're activated, especially the better weapons. You get such as bazookas, shotguns, bigger machine guns, and these make your reticule bigger, so it's easier to shoot people, and they fire a lot faster, they do more damage, all very good, but it's power-ups. They all, the good thing is they all feel like power-ups. We've said in a lot of games feel like power down, so they don't feel thingy. Picking these up is get them, because they're good. They will blow the crap out of everything. They only last for a limited time, though, typical power-up usage, but they're really useful for spraying and praying, because that's what this game is. Each stage follows the same template with different background graphics, but there are a variety of enemies that will show up. There's grenade-throwing dudes in grey who roll out of the way of your shots. You have to sort of get them like a few times before they go down. There's frogmen that pop up out of lakes on those levels with water in them, and they'll be shooting at you, and they pop up and pop down, and they swim away and things like that. There's people coming out of all over the place. There's just loads of stuff going on. At the end of each 4th stage, you have to face off against a boss, and these. There's a helicopter that throws bombs at you at the end of the stage 4. There's a submarine at the end of stage 8, which pops up from a sort of a big lake and fires at you. There's a series of the next 3 is just gun emplacements, basically. There's a series of different gun emplacements at the end of stage 12. There's more different gun emplacements. These are actually weird, those ones at the end of stage 12, actually, because they get brought on by a truck and they kind of sort of drop there, and then you have to shoot them and try and keep shooting them and blowing them up. There's different gun emplacements on stage 16, if you get there. And finally, more varied gun emplacements for the last boss, which you just got to keep blasting and sort of shoot them up. And if you beat them, well done. You complete the game. It's an arcade game. You get a hearty congratulations message, and you get picked up by a chopper and flown away. Cool. Very arcadey in presentation and style. It's to be expected because it's an arcade conversion. So that's the game. That's pretty much what it is. You blast away. You just shoot stuff and try and survive. The visuals on the whole are good, I thought. Your guy is well animated. He does have that typical sort of high-res overlay that we've seen from a lot of Ocean games for this kind of thing. My only issue with it, though, he didn't feel particularly military in style. He looked a bit sort of... He wasn't dressed in military attire. Colours weren't right. It's kind of just it's in blue and black. It's kind of weird. And then I think it's to differentiate. But then player 2 is in red and black. But the point is that you don't... they're not on screen at the same time. So there's not really a need for different. I would just prefer him to look a bit more military. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But aside from that, it's a well animated, well drawn sprite that looks all right. It's fine. The enemies in the background and tanks, they're all medium res, but they're well drawn. It's the stuff we've come to expect from Karen Davis. It looks fine. It looks good. They're well drawn. They're well animated as well. I like the guys rolling about and the frogmen popping up. And I thought they were better than those we saw in Operation Wolf, which were a bit more blockier. And I thought these were more animated, a bit more character to them. There are a lot of them as well. Loads of and there's a lot going on screen. There's loads of enemies, loads of bullets flying around, and I never saw any flicker or anything or any kind of sort of slowdown. Or I thought this was a well put together piece of software. It's quick, it's fast, it's responsive, and I thought it was pretty well coded. Your control of the crosshair is always nice and smooth. It doesn't have that speed up that so many other games have and sort of becomes uncontrollable. I always felt I was in control of the crosshair, which was cool. So that was nice, and just being able to pass over enemies and shoot them means that killing the vast amount of them is easy enough to do. You don't have to worry. It is literally spray and pray, move left and right, and get out of the way of bullets. That's this game. You can also, as well, if you're quick enough, you can shoot projectile bullets heading to you as well. So you don't have to if you're quick enough. And that's a nice touch too. The various background screens are okay, not brilliant, but including the destructible buildings is great. It's a nice touch that they've included that from the arcade. And means you can empty the screen of them and get bonuses from them as well, and continue your one-man war against the enemy. It works. It's pretty much exactly like the arcade. The sound, though, is a bit underwhelming, though. The beefy noise of the arcade has been completely lost, which is a bit of a problem because there's no music in the game, and we get a rather weedy chorus of gunfire and explosions. It's the weakest part of the game, I thought, because it lets it down somewhat. I'd have liked to have had the option of some music playing instead of effects or silence. Because, like I said, I think it affects the atmosphere of the game. A decent pumping soundtrack here, just a bass drum or just something to get it going would have helped keep the momentum of the game going, because it can feel a bit flat overall. It's good that the game keeps all of the game's levels and bonuses and destruction, but the one thing it is lacking is the roll maneuver to get away from the enemy bullets. So in the arcade, you've got another button and it allows you to roll. So if there's bullets coming at you, you can roll to get away from them and get out of the way. Now, I think I would have preferred a control system where the up diagonals were roll instead of being able to control the height of the crosshair. Because I didn't even notice that when I'm running left and right, that I can move my crosshair up and down to shoot stuff. Because as soon as you press fire, you stop moving anyway. So I think I would have preferred to have the roll maneuver in there. Because the speed at which you move, the volume of fire and head at you make this a very tough game. It's hard to get out of the way of stuff sometimes. Giving me a way to roll out of tricky situations would have been more beneficial than not having it. I think it's a bigger mission here. It's really, I went and played the arcade game on MAME, and having that roll was like, oh, this is a godsend. But and you really come back to the C64 version, you really miss it. I think that's a bit of an oversight, and I would have liked to have seen that in there. The difficulty in this is odd. The standard levels, they soon become rock hard. It becomes very hard very quickly. Loads of bullets, loads of stuff going on, and it's hard to because you can get pinned in a corner very easily with no way to get out of it. Hence, because of that lack of roll, that becomes a problem. Whereas the bosses are dead easy. When you get to a boss, you can kill them. It's like you just rip its head off. It's like killing an otter. And this feels like the opposite of the arcade version, which is actually quite easy to get through to the bosses, but the bosses are rock hard. So it's a kind of weird flip-flop, and I think that is because of that lack of roll. So I've not played this much. I know of it, but I've not really played it that much. But all told, I thought this was a pretty solid conversion. Everything's here from the arcade, apart from some of the interstitial graphics and some of the sort of presentation bits and bobs. But the actual main chunk of the game, all 20 levels, all the levels are the same as the arcade as well. It's all here. It just lacks some decent in-game music, which I think would have made this a much better experience. As an experiment, I opened up SID Player and I put the in-game drum beat from Green Beret on it while I was playing this and turned the sound off. And just that, it added loads. It was a way more better experience. We've done this before. I think you did it with some game as well, where you put a Hubbard piece on, I think, with no music.
I did, yeah.
And it's the same sort of thing. You can try it yourself. Just run it in emulation, put a bit of music on at the background. It becomes so much better. I would have really liked that. Maybe they just didn't have, because there's so much moving on screen. Maybe they didn't have space or time. I don't know, coding, whatever. But I would have liked some music. I think would have made it better. But I did enjoy it. Just as another aside on this, what it seems to get likened to Operation Wolf. I don't think it's got. I mean, you're firing into the screen, fair enough. But do you know what I think this has more in common with? It's Space Invaders, isn't it?
If you say so, yeah, I would not immediately see that, but I'd say more like Missile Command, really. But
I thought Space. Well, Missile Command, Space Invaders. It's those old kind of single screen, move left and right. Because you don't move left and right in Missile Command, do you? Just move the target. This is single screen, move left and right, shoot enemies up the screen who are shooting back at you. Big targets from time to time as you hide behind destructible barriers. Yeah. It's a Space Invaders derivative. I thought when I was playing it, I was like, oh. Okay, but it's just it's obviously because the way it plays. But I thought this was another entry into the solid arcade conversion table. I know your mileage may vary on how much you like the arcade. That's fair enough. It's missing some of the presentation, like I said, with the bits between the levels, and it's missing that funny run you do when you complete a stage, which is really weird in the arcade version. He does this kind of I don't know if you've seen that. He does that kind of comedy run into the screen when you complete a screen. We don't have that on this. You just move to the next stage. But what is here is Cabal. I mean, it's the arcade game on the C64. I don't think you could do it any better. I liked it. I enjoyed my time with this. So it was a bit of a good mindless blast, and I did have a good blast with it. There is also, just as a final addendum, there is also a US version, which I also tried. And it's awful. This is a proper one where the UK version or the Euro version is way, way better. The American version was produced by Capcom. It is absolutely dreadful. Flickery, twitchy, awful controls, presentation's dire. It's really crap. And, playing that just actually makes you realize what a decent job special effects did here. I think this is a pretty decent conversion overall. It lacks a bit of atmosphere, it lacks some music, and it lacks the role, which do lessen the experience. But as it goes, I don't, I think I'm not sure you could have done much more. And seeing that American version made me appreciate this one all the more. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was as arcade conversions go, this was a good one. What about you?
It's all right. It's an okay game if you can stand it for long enough. If you like the way that it controls and you dig the game, it's all right. Graphics were okay. The sound felt perfunctory. Main sprite was well drawn. Some reasonable ideas in there. Some okay animations with a little guy stomping backwards and forwards at the back. A lot of brown, but that's to be expected on the C64. I like the idea of destructible buildings in there. It's quite a nice thing to have in it. So that's from the arcade. Plays a bit like the arcade version, but it was never an arcade that I had much time for. Just don't sit in the camp where these games sit well with me. It had a vibe, didn't it, the game? Maybe it was okay in two-player, like you said, if you're going to have a bit of competitiveness about it, and you're going to sort of see if you can egg the other person on to get a bit further and whatnot. For me, it's a bit samey, not very interesting, but it is quirky, I'll give it that. There are some weird scaling issues with sort of tanks that are the size of small houses and houses that are the size of giants and people that, and it's all a bit, and there's bits of that shout lack of attention, lack of due care and attention in something that in other ways has some attention about it. But it just felt very samey. I think I couldn't get into it. I couldn't find myself getting into it. I just found myself a little bit overwhelmed with boredom with it. But that isn't the fault of the conversion of the C64. That's just Cabal. That's just not a game that I really dig.
Cabal, it's a single screen shooter, isn't it? Single screen upward shooter. That's it.
Exactly. And but there's these other games that have done this kind of vibe. I mean, you could argue that there's these even little elements of what do you call it, a Beachhead and Beachhead 2 in there, maybe a little bit here and there, and things like that. Now this does lean on older game ideas, and that's never a bad thing. Now I'm not saying this game is bad. I'm not saying it's great, but it might be great for people that like this kind of thing. Is it 89%? I would never have given it that, but I wouldn't have given it a bad score. I'd have probably given it in the 70s, mid-70s, 75, 3/4. It's all right. It is a good arcade conversion, though, in the sense that it has the elements of the arcade, no bugs and no crazy. That's always a good thing, and it is all there as much as you can get it in. So those are all good things. It's just not a game that really lit my fireworks, as it were. Yeah. It's not my kind of firework display, but it was all right.
Your mileage is going to vary on how much you like the arcade, completely. Isn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't, but I looked at the other versions as well, and they're all kind of okay. I think the Cabal on the Spectrum was famously coded by Jim Bagley, wasn't it?
It was,
Jim Bagley, James Bagley himself. And he's in the Ocean book as well. It was never a game that I thought was that good, I'll be honest. But that said, this isn't a bad version of an okay game, so there you go.
There you go. That's Cabal, or Cable, or Cabal, or however you pronounce the damn thing. I don't know. It's a decent conversion of the arcade game, and whether you like that arcade game is going to influence whether you like this, I think, is the
I'd agree.
There we go. That's the first of our 3 games for this part. Let's move on to our next one. And Graham, will you have the pleasure of having your breath taken away as you get to play Top Gun?
Yes, finally.
I'm welling up here. I'm welling up.
This was a re-release of the 1987 game from Ocean. It was $2.99 upon its budget re-release. 61% it scored. It was never reviewed in Zap originally, from what I could gather.
Not. Wonder why.
It was published by Ocean. It was coded by Jake Glover. Now, Jake Glover's an interesting character because he was the guy that was meant to have made Cyclops on the C64 back in the Imagine days, before Imagine collapsed. It was one of their imaginary games. There was Cyclops was the C64 super game, which was meant to feature some magic hardware that made everything go crazy good. And then, of course, there was Bandersnatch, which was the one for the Spectrum. Neither of these games were real. They put loads of adverts out in the press at the time saying how miraculous they were going to be. I think there is some basic screenshots of Cyclops that have surfaced since then. And of course, thanks to the amazing GamesThatWeren't.com website, there's a whole bunch of stuff written about Cyclops, which I'll put the link in the show notes. Go and have a read, because it's a crazy, tragic tale, the way that Imagine collapsed. The BBC, I think, were doing a documentary. They were there when they actually went and shut the doors.
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
bailiffs came round and forgave people the match. Those uncomfortable times for people in the games industry. A real glove slap for all of the, Ferrari driving, Porsche driving execs that were kind of touting how great it was to be in that realm. And of course, the reality of what was actually happening was very different. Completely different stories, that. So it's that guy, apparently. Graphics were by Stephen Waheed. He's been around, and he's Steve Waheed. He's done a few things. Yeah. The title screen was Steve Waheed. Now, I can only imagine this is Steve Waheed did this some time ago.
I can only imagine that Steve Waheed did the title screen. I don't think he's done the in-game stuff.
So this was a Spectrum game, and this was made at a time when Ocean were doing a lot of Spectrum games, and this is the conversion of the Spectrum game to the C64. Now, Mike Lamb, who did the Spectrum version, had this to say. The aim with Top Gun was to make a 3D combat game on 8-bit machines in 3 months. A shame, but we had to get it out for Christmas. I took the game home at Christmas to play with my mates. They weren't at all impressed. It had potential, but in retrospect, it was tough doing the game in only 3 to 4 months. With a 6-month development timeline, it could have been good. That's from the horse's mouth. That's the guy that designed the original Spectrum version.
All right.
So then the Commodore 64 version then is a conversion of that by Jake. What Cyclops Glover? All right. This game raises questions immediately that become obvious when it loads. First one being, why does this game repurpose the Comic Bakery music instead of having a version of the Top Gun music? Something which the film was famous for its soundtrack. The loading screen, while okay, lacks the theme from the film. It's just a schematic of an F-14. Okay, it is what it is. The player number selection title screen is basic looking. It's a split screen view of a square radar and some kind of sea view. Is that Top Gun? Is it? I don't know. It's all weird. The idea of this game, by the way, is that you are playing out a little bit of the sequence of Top Gun where they have a dogfight in it. So that's as much as I could gather from the crappy instructions. So it's a 1 or 2 player game, which you must make the choice of at the start. For it's a choice you can only do once. And it looks, when it finally appears, when you get to the game, it looks like Ace did. You know that split screen that Ace had, and Ace Combat, Ace 2?
Ace 2 on it, I think.
Yeah. So it had that kind of split screen effect. Okay. So you'll get past the loading screen, you'll get past the player number selection screen, which is really weird. It's really strange because it's got like this split screen view of like 2 ships at sea, and then it says 1 or 2 player. So you press 1 or 2 player, and then you get like the next bit, which is where you get that Top Gun, a version of the Top Gun logo, I guess. And then it tells you weirdly, that you've got, it says, so if you press the player 1 or 2, it then moves you to this screen. You've got that, like I said, this crappy 3-color version of the Top Gun logo. Then it says player 1 and 2's number of lives, even though you've only selected player 1 player. And then it says level 1, press 5 to start. It's not even in the center of the screen, any of that writing. It's not centered. Center your damn text. Center it. At the least you can do. That's the least you can do. It's not difficult to do that, is it? Get the width of the screen, divide it by 2. That's the center. All right, just saying. So then the world's most underwhelming takeoff sequence from the deck of an aircraft carrier that has ever been animated occurs when you press 5 to start. The opening sequence of the film is a massive, memorable sequence, isn't it? Do you remember the opening of Top Gun?
Yeah, it's loud.
Big F-14 jets, afterburners lighting up. That guy waving those 2 sticks that, directing the planes off the deck of a massive aircraft carrier. Lots of exciting jet noises. And it's Tony Scott, isn't it, who directed it? Famous for doing the Saab advert, which featured the Saab Viggen. It was a car for Saab, but he had the Saab Viggen aircraft in it shooting over the top of the Saab car. Do you remember that advert?
I do, yeah.
He did all that. Famous. So the opening sequence of this film is a massive, memorable sequence showing F-14s moving into position, taking off, famous music. This version in the game looks like a black dildo is thrown from the deck of a grey canoe. Now that is what you call underwhelming. It's so uninspired. It's so terrible. Even the sky is the wrong fucking colour of the sunset.
It's grey
in the background. Yeah, it's great. And there's the sun setting. That's not the colour of the sky. Just crap. just rubbish. Then the confusing game begins and the dual decks of the USS Inadequate are replaced with a black background, a green crosshairs, a green line of dots, and what I think is an aeroplane, also in green. You shuffle this view around with no finesse, no idea of control or what's happening with the joystick. The idea is to shoot something down, I guessed. akin to a dogfight. This is about as far away from that as it gets. Periodically, the border will flash, which I assume means you're getting shot at or something. You hear a machine gun style sound, which you can also do when you press fire and more dots appear and then sort of run out. You flit around with no idea what's happening, and below your cockpit view gives you no information, no indication of anything, or indeed any idea what's happening at all. Occasionally, something will blow up in an underwhelming green vector style splat that looks like a special offer tag from a Sunday market store. And that's this game. That's it. That's what this game is. That. So your flight is vector-based-ish, and you're supposed to be flying a Top Gun F-14 a la the movie, Tom Cruise and all of the fancy bells and whistles that come with Top Gun. Maverick and Iceman and all of those characters, those famous characters that they could have put into this. Now, I know this is 1987 when this was made, but come on. This is Top Gun. This is a massive license. See, it was a humongous hit. Maybe they didn't expect it to be a hit, and it's early days in the games industry. I get it. All right, but put that to one side. Even in 1987, this is piss awful. I mean, I can't even believe they released this. It's just so bad. I mean, I guess maybe on the Spectrum, because the vectors on it and the green and that kind of display, it would probably work on a Spectrum, and maybe there's a good bit of two-player Spectrum action to be had out of this. I don't know. I wasn't going to go and replay it on another 8-bit machine, I can tell you that. For me, on the C64, this appeals to none of the C64 strengths which were being exploited quite a lot in 1987, because Activision had exploited loads of them in 1984. Mm-hmm. So there was loads of ways they could have turned this game. If they'd have made it like Buck Rogers, it might have been blocky, but it would have been more like Top Gun with an airplane flying like that. But no, instead you get this god-awful thing. So how are you supposed to associate this film and that game together, other than by the fact that it's got the Top Gun, a badly cut out version of the Top Gun logo and Tom Cruise and what's the name from the Top Gun on the front of the box? Yeah. It's the only thing linking this to Top Gun. When it loads, it has the Top Gun logo, but it doesn't have the music. It doesn't have any of the kind of decals of the film. Doesn't have any plot from the film. Doesn't have any indication that you have anything to do with it. Nor does it even mention any of the characters from the film. It's literally the name on a box. And does that now? The reason I mention all of this is not to just sort of have a smash at a 1987 game that's been re-released, because that's not the point of what I'm saying. We've been exploring all of this. This is an Ocean game. We've been exploring all of these Ocean licensed games over these years for some time. And over the past sort of 2-3 episodes, we've had Batman, which is a big licensed game, Ocean. We've had Untouchables, and then there'll be others. And we've sort of looked at them and gone, hang on a minute, they haven't got this right. This isn't very good. This is a bit of exploitation, And then we've also looked back, and I looked back at some of the other episodes and had a quick listen to some of the older reviews, things like Knight Rider and some of the other Ocean games. They have always done this. They have always got these licenses and just made crap games out of them, generally. Maybe the odd little one here and there. Cobra. It's
Short Circuit.
Exactly. So to think that this is it's a re-release of an Ocean game, fine. But for me, it's the epitome of everything that I've come to really despise about Ocean as a company. Now, I held Ocean in high reverie because of games like Whizball and things like that. But as you pointed out in a recent post on our amazing Discord with the patrons, none of the big Ocean games were made by Ocean. They were made by third-party guys who they ripped off generally. Yeah. So these games, these Ocean games, now this isn't a go at the creators either, the coders, because there's some amazing coding chops in Ocean and some of their, their programmers. And this isn't about that. This is about their business ethics as a company making games. This game and this re-release are a testament to the fact that they have always been a shit show of people ripping people off with licenses. They've never changed their MO. And in fact, they thought they could get away with this one twice. That shows you how much contempt they have for people, because this is crap. It was crap in 1987 and it's crap now. Even if this was released at $1.99, which it should have been, it would be crap. This is worse than Wing Commander. That had at least had the benefit of being a budget game originally, even though it was just big blocks of green and blue and a sort of white noise. This is just a really crap, no effort spared, 2 weeks, maybe a week in development attempt to get this bloody game out there. There's literally no attempt to make this a good Top Gun game. Nothing. None. Badly cut out details from the film poster on the box is the only way you'd associate this with the film license anyway. The rest is a haphazard load of shit. I suspect this took about 2 to 3 hours to create, if that. There is no way this took anyone a length of time. This is rubbish. No music was created for it. The graphics were straight from the Spectrum version. No one gave a shit about this as long as some poor suckers paid it. Now, how many times, Adrian, have we said that about an Ocean game now? Mm-hmm. How many times are we going to, reprehensible practice from Ocean? And a reminder for me, while they might have somehow developed a fake veneer of quality for some reason, their games are and have mostly been more shit than hit. This is 61% from Zap. They can get f***ed with that. I wouldn't give this 2%. It is crap. This was crap then, and it's crap now, and emblematic of the big ocean ripoff. And that is that they just kept releasing licensed games that were rubbish or broken or worse, with no due care and attention for anybody. And it's about time somebody called them out for it. And I'm calling them out for it because this is emblematic of that problem. This should never have been re-released in the first place. Shocking practice, Adrian. What about you?
Yeah, I'm just going to throw into that mix Highlander. It's a knockout.
Yep.
Miami Vice. I think Platoon is probably the only was okay. Rambo 3 wasn't great. Rambo 2 was all right. RoboCop was rubbish.
Yep. Rastan, rubbish.
Yeah, Rastan. Short Circuit was crap. I'm trying to look through some of their other games here, just listening to them. Top Gun. We've got loads still to come, though. That Transformers game they did was rubbish. V. Yep.
V wasn't very good.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their sort of licensed sort of media products, not the arcade conversions or anything. But I don't think, aside from Platoon and maybe Rambo First Blood Part 2, there's a decent one amongst them.
No.
Because Batman the Cape Crusader, I think, was all right, but that was kind of a weird, wasn't based on
special effects as well, more of a separate development team,
special effects, who also did Cabal,
Yep.
Yeah, we see these things. Anyway,
something
Top Gun.
to be said about it.
Yeah, Top Gun, what is this? What is this? First, I thought, right, like you said, why is the Comic Bakery music here?
Yep.
Why? Galway got paid? What the hell does this have to do with Top Gun? I don't get it. I don't even know where to start with the rest. What the hell does Comic Bakery... Who thought a split-screen vector graphics jerky one-on-one fighter was the best way to represent this film?
In the dark, yeah.
Yeah, this is Top Gun. This isn't Top Gun.
No, it's not.
I honestly had thought... No matter, you've obviously read what the guy said, sort of thing, and so fair enough. But my initial reaction to this was this was some other game that had the license slapped on it, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some retconning of history. I can't. Well, it's got nothing to do with it. You can't look at the film Top Gun and go, "What this needs is a one-on-one fighter." No one would watch Top Gun and make this. I'd have preferred a beach-based volleyball game rather than this. Yeah. And even if it's not Top Gun. Even if this was just released as whatever it was, it's still bloody awful. The enemy plane, it can shoot you while facing away from you. It's like, how does it do that? I don't know.
Just stupid.
It makes no sense. Of all the things you could have done with this license, like you said, you could have had something like that. I would have gone, no one wanted this. I'd have kept it simple. Vertical scroll and shoot 'em up. Slap fighter style. Yep. Shooting. We saw that one. What was that Tornado? There was TLL, I think. But what was that one we looked at? That budget one recently, where you were controlling the F-40 thingy and shooting stuff. Where the plane was too big, but but it was fine. If they'd have done
F-40
that,
Tomcat,
if they'd have done that for this, I'd have been okay. Yeah, just shooting down MiGs and something 1942-ish.
Yeah, that would have been perfectly good, wouldn't it?
Why wouldn't you? That plays to 8-bit computer strengths, doesn't it? Not this. Because if you only got 3 months to make something, right, what's the basic stuff? A vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. Make some basic levels, have them repeat, get some enemies in. That shit writes itself.
It is, but just think, what you have to think about then is think of where this game started, and then you'll suddenly realise why they didn't make it a vertically scrolling shoot 'em up.
Because it's on the Spectrum.
Because it's on the Spectrum and it can't scroll.
Yeah. So I understand that, but so it's flawed from the very beginning. That makes me annoyed, sort of thing, because then it's like, well, fair enough if you're going to do that for the Spectrum, but take advantage of your host machine. But they don't, do they? That's what put 61% is just a joke. Like you said when we were talking about this, they missed a 0 point at the beginning.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
0.61 is what they should have got because it's goddamn awful, and it's the Ocean upgrade in full effect once again. There's no way. If you read this and went, "Oh, Top Gun got 61%," I never saw that when it came out. They reviewed it. Might be all right for a couple of quid. You'd be well ripped off. You'd be so annoyed.
Utterly ripped off.
I'm surprised this didn't get a silver medal with the way the reviews are at the moment.
I mean, I can't overestimate how bad that sequence is when the F-14 takes off from the aircraft.
It made me laugh out loud.
It's like something out of like a kid's first animation or something. It's so bad. You can't believe it. You can't believe that's in a license to a film like Top Gun. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It is just dreadful. This was awful.
Dog egg.
Another contender for worst game of the year, I think.
Yeah, and licensed catastrophe. Goodness me, is that a contender?
Good Lord, that's got to be a...
It's mostly ocean games in there, I think.
Yeah, mostly. Anyway, there you go. Top Gun, Top Bun, Cop Gun, Crap Gun.
It ain't top of anything.
It's not.
Yeah, bottom ass.
There we go. Oh, let's move along. Let's leave that. Let's get our breath back and move on to our last game for the week. And that game, well, this is an odd one. This is Terry's Big Adventure. Not to be confused with Terry's All Gold.
Or Terry Strong.
Or Terry Strong, which I kind of wish it was, wasn't it? But this was £6.99. It's a weird price. It got 82%. There we go. We don't see many of these, that's for sure. Because what we have here is a certifiable Super Mario Brothers clone.
It is, just a bit.
In the form of Terry's Big Adventure. Now, if this was the Big Adventure of Terry Strong, I've actually written that, we'd have Game of the Year material. If this was like, if he was bouncing along, dodging East End governor sort of thing, trying to rescue Arthur.
As he played through the level. Hey, Terry.
The bonus levels just featured a topless woman for no reason going, "Here, Terry," and that was it.
Yeah, you had to rescue Arthur Daly. You had to play that. I'd have bought that.
Absolutely. Alas, though, it is not to be. Terry's Big Adventure was published by Shades and developed by Game Tech. And on the C64, it was coded by Gary Walton. He also did the visuals as well. Now, also, the credit on Lemon is down for Alistair Brimble for the music.
Interesting.
But there is a comment on there to say it's an error. And he did the Amiga version music, not the C64 version. I did listen to the Amiga version music, and it's completely different. And does sound like a Brimble piece of work. But supposedly the music for the C64 version is Gary Walton again. So it's a true one-man band developer. He did everything. Music, sound, and code by the sound of it. So what's the story here? There ain't one. Not really. Not that I can see. So what the manual says, it says this. Terry's Big Adventure is a one-player left-to-right smooth-scrolling jump and run game with superb music, sound effects, and excellent graphics. Terry is a small, energetic character who is an expert with a yo-yo. His adventure takes him through 12 levels where he encounters numerous obstacles such as hedgehogs, snails, bridges, rivers, and poisonous mushrooms that pop up at the least expected moment. Armed with his yo-yo or rocks, Terry must slay the enemies to be able to continue on his adventure. There you go. That's from the box.
Okay.
So when the game first loads, we've got no real title screen to speak of. There's no sound either. It's really quiet. What we've got is a scrolling view of the first level and the name of the game in the top left with a high score underneath it. If you leave it a while, then you get a demo of the game. Very short demo, but still a demo. Something I always like to see to give you a taste of what is to come. Okay, so nice bit of presentation at the beginning. Pressing the fire button gets us going, and we see a very familiar looking game to both Mario and Guyana Sisters. So it's one of them. So as the instructions said, it's a left to right platformer with you controlling Terry, trying to make your way through the 12 levels ahead of you. The game itself takes up the whole screen, with the only UI being the score and number of lives remaining in the top left. Controls are simple enough, with left and right to run, up to jump, and fire to fling out your yo-yo. Because you've got a weapon here, kind of similar to a bit like Rygar, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you had a smashy yo-yo. So you must use this yo-yo to take down the various nasties that stand in your way. The controls are inertia-based as well. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, and also to get Terry up to full speed for bigger jumps and stuff. And then it will take him longer to stop and turn around as well, because if you're running fast, then you're going to get that. You've got that inertia, so you've got to plan for that, and you have to plan. You can't just turn on a dime in this. There's weight to this character. You can't land on enemies' heads either, Mario style, to kill them. Or at least not that I could try anyway. Seems you could do that in the Amiga version when I looked at a video, but not in this one. You've got to hit them with the yo-yo to kill them, because if you run into them or hit them from the top or anywhere else, you will die. So like the running and other games of this ilk, you've got control over Terry's jump as well. The longer you hold up, the higher you jump. So just tap up and you do a small jump, and you hold it up and you'll do a full jump, just like Mario does when you hold down the fire button fully or tap it. Same kind of control system. You can also slow down in midair in order to land on platforms correctly. So you've got some kind of, control over your jumping and stuff. So it's not like once you press fire, you're jumping like we've seen in loads of these games. No, you've got control. I like that. That's how I like my platformers to be. A bit of control in the air. I know it's not realistic, but I don't care. I'm playing a video game. But it does feel like you've got a lot of weight to contend with, though. Terry's hefty. He's leaden. He's chunky. He's obviously been pumping out. But once you get used to them, I thought the controls are fine. You start to make your way through the levels. The screen itself has been split. It's kind of like, it's easy enough to read. It's like 12 blocks high. It's a 12 block high grid. That's what the game is. And all the levels and platforms fit in. They just fit into that grid. So you know exactly how this is going to look. It's a left to right scroll. It never scrolls vertically. So it's a flat experience in the way that Mario and Guyana banner were before it. But I found that the placement of enemies, the need for the use of the yo-yo, it is quite challenging. Although, it can look quite simplistic. It's actually quite challenging at times and does get more and more challenging as it goes on. The levels are not just populated with enemies, but there are collectible mushrooms as well. And you need to pick up the white ones for bonus points, while the brown ones that move up and down, sort of pop about the land, give you extra time for the level you're currently on. Hit any other coloured mushrooms and they will kill you. So you only want to hit the white and the brown ones. Anything else kills you. Anything kills you in this game. If you hit certain enemies with your yo-yo, not just certain enemies, but randomly enemies. Some certain enemies will pop, like a bubble will pop from their head, and it will pop up a bubble. It will sort of fly down. And then a letter will appear, and it will start floating down. Should you collect this before it hits the ground? Because if it hits the ground, it pops. But if you collect it before it hits the ground, you can start to spell out some words in the top left, which is underneath your score and lives. If you spell out the word Terry, so you spell that word out, you become invulnerable for a short period of time. It's basically like getting the star in Mario. It's exactly the same. So the music changes to indicate that you are now, you've become sort of invulnerable, and you can just leg it as far as you can, and you can go through enemies and kill them. So that's quite cool. If you collect the word extra, you get an extra life. That's nice. There are also flags as well to collect, and these act as score multipliers, but they are in hard to reach places, and I died far more often trying to get to those bloody flags and just left them. It was like, bugger this. They're really hard to get to in some places. So it's up to you whether you want to go get them. As you progress, you'll find bonus areas. So you can drop down. There's like holes you can make or things you can turn on, and that opens up holes. You can drop down. And there's loads of loot to collect and little platform sections and stuff to grow through. So there's loads of secret stuff to find as well, which is quite nice. And should you make it to the end of a level, then you get another short timed bonus level to collect loads of mushrooms again before heading onwards. Again, it's all nice. The end of level as well has a thing which you need to kind of jump on at the top of. If you jump on it at the top, you get more bonus points. Again, just like Mario's flagpole. This is very Mario influenced, but not like we're sort of awash with Mario-style games on the C64. The levels themselves, they never really vary in what you do. You run and jump and yo-yo stuff, but the variety of enemies does, and soon you have to contend with flying stars, lightning from clouds, enemies that take multiple hits with a yo-yo, and so on, all whilst trying to navigate ever more tighter platforming structures. Sometimes you've got to climb up, there's like walls and stuff, so you're bouncing from side to side while enemies are sort of falling down them and coming after you. Some enemies will fall off platforms, some will just patrol the platform they're on. They all do different things, and that's quite nice. You can't just leg it. You've got to kind of plan around a little bit. It's a good platformer, and it really is. It's classic platform design. It just borrows heavily from Mario. But like I said, we've got Guyana Sisters, and there's not very many other Mario clones we've got on the C64, so that's not a bad thing. The visuals are okay. They're okay. They're functional. They're like a rougher version of Guyana Sisters, I think. I think it's the best way to describe them. Yeah, but they do the job. And the scrolling is smooth, and the controls are fine and responsive. I never had any problems with anything. The music was it's a strange bouncy tune that just sort of bumbles along in the background. I imagine it does become annoying after a while. I never found it annoying, and the change when you spell out Terry was welcome, but it does just kind of bounce along, and it's just there. It's a bimbling tune. There are also floating platforms as well that sort of carry you from place to place. There are destructible blocks and secrets, like I said, to find. And there's just enough enemies in just enough places to frustrate, but not in a bad way, because it's like you take your time. You don't have to rush through the levels. Obviously, chasing, score chasing, you will do, but you don't have to. So taking your time is the way. So plan your attacks, get in there and kill them. There's nothing too bad. And also as well, if you scroll it to the right, it never scrolls back to the left. And if enemies walk off to the left, they don't come back. They're gone and dead. So you don't have to worry about them. That's probably just a programming thing that once it's gone, it's forgotten and written out of memory, but it's handy to know. There are also checkpoints as well throughout the levels, so you never lose too much progress. When you die, you go back to a checkpoint. That's quite good. And even when I died and started again, like the first time through it, I just got to the second level. I started again. I actually started on level 2 rather than level 1. So I thought that was a good touch as well. I don't know whether that works all the time, whether there's a limited amount of continues. I wasn't sure, but that's quite cool as well. I didn't know what to expect from this. I mean, it's Terry's Big Adventure. I'd never heard of it. We laughed at the crap a few weeks back. But, as Mario-style platformers on this system go, I thought this was a pretty good one because we're just not awash with them. Like I said, never heard of it before, wasn't sure what to expect. But, it's a decent Mario clone, and it wasn't what I was expecting. And it's only £7. So for 12 decent levels, secret bonus levels, secret end of level sort of trials, there's a decent challenge here. The levels get quite tricky as you progress. There's a lot of decent game here for that price, It does its one thing. It's a Mario platformer, and it does it well. I like this. It's not a classic. It is what it is, but it's a decent game all the same. It's a decent Mario platformer on the C64. I think Guyana Sisters obviously gets all the plaudits because it was probably the first one, but this has come along and maybe go, the C64 can do these if people want to do them, and I think there's another good one here. I liked it. Wasn't what I was expecting, but yeah, it was good. What about you?
Yeah, it's a weird, though not unplayable Mario clone, wasn't it? With an odd melancholy, kind of melancholic vibe about it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's just the music. It had just got kind of a sad vibe. Graphics were small, but they did the job. Mario style. Scroll was really good, smooth. Worked exactly as you'd expect it to. Like you said, he is a little bit heavy, but that kind of just that. It's like that's how this game works, and it has that kind of nice sort of inertia-based sort of effect, which I thought was quite nice. It is dead frustrating though, but that's these kind of Mario games in a nutshell, isn't it? With the music though, it was like they asked the Smiths to compose music for it. So it just gave it that kind of weird sort of, I won't go out tonight, but, it'd be like playing a game with Morrissey.
Yeah, true.
Graphics were an odd mix, but in the context, they did like some of the polish.
Some quite characterful monsters. Little one that opens his eyes and sort of moves towards you and stuff.
Yeah, like it may have lacked a little bit of polish. They're not maybe super pro, but they were perfectly good for what this was. And remember, this is kind of a budget game. I thought the controls, like you said, were good. Nice after-touch effects. Skid logic was quite nice, like Mario. So it's it's a pain when you skid off a platform and whatnot. But that's how it goes. As Mario game clones go, we don't get many of them, like you said. So when they come along, and they're a serious attempt like this is, it's not terrible at all. There's a lot to it, and I think that's a good thing. There's a lot to this game, and you can keep going at it for $6.99 if you can get past the kind of doom, sadness, Morrissey vibes that it gives you. There's a good game in there, I think. Yes, it's Mario, but it's not a shot-for-shot Mario game. There's differences and there's nuances. And there's loads of... nowadays, we're awash with these platform-type run and jump platform-type games. There's loads of them. So it's not like it's doing anything groundbreaking. But at the same time, it is doing something good on the C64 because the C64 is a perfectly capable platform, as many games will attest later, for this kind of sort of platforming game. It's a good platform for that. It's got 8 sprites, it's got all the stuff going on, it's got enough graphic oomph behind it to scroll the screen nicely. It's almost like it was made for these kind of games, really, isn't it?
Yeah, character blocks, nice simple character blocks for scrolling and stuff for the background.
Exactly. It's a good game, this, for the price. Not bad at all. At least it's a full game with no bugs, just some good old-fashioned platforming that you can jump about and figure stuff out and get on with it. What's not to like about that? Yes, the advert was crap, but the game is actually pretty good. I didn't look at the Amiga version, but the C64 version had enough character to give it its own little universe. If you can get past Morrissey being involved, it's all good. So I thought it was for the price. It ain't bad, is it? That $6.99 for that. It's $6.99 for a Mario game. Nowadays, if we've got $6.99 for a Mario game, we'd all be happy. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, and to be thinking, it's probably got all that weight because he might actually be Terry Strong. I imagine Terry Strong would be quite hefty.
And at least it's got a character, and it is a character. Yeah, and it should be Terry Strong, but let's just say it is. But it's got a character, and his character's doing his own thing. It's not, Gianna Sisters was Gianna Sisters, but they were kind of Mario. Yes, it's Mario-esque, but it's Terry. He's doing his own thing. I like that. I quite like that. Terry's Big Adventure's got a nice British vibe sort of about it as well. I don't know why.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. There we go.
Works for me. Yeah, good.
Terry's Big Adventure. Terry's all gold. It is pretty much all gold in that game. It's good. Yeah. Good end to the month, good end to the week. I quite liked it. It was just like you said, nice just to get a standard platform where you knew exactly what was going on, no problems, and it worked. And all in one load. All in one load as well, which is always good to see. That's it. That's it for this week. We've had 6 games. Those games were, let's go through them. Well, we started off with the hefty Turbo Outrun, Too Big for Its Boots, I think. Too Big for Its Road, I think is the sort of saying there. Too Big for Its Road. We had Sporting Triangles. The least said about that, the better. Not the worst game though this week. Not the worst game, but still not great. Xenophobe, which I found utterly bewildering. And it's just, I don't know why anyone bothered to convert that really. It's such a strange thing. Cabal, which, good conversion, and like we said, your mileage will vary depending on how much you like the original. Then we had the god-awful Top Gun. Dreadful thing. And finally, the fun adventures of Terry in Terry's Big Adventure, which was an okay platformer. Not a bad week. We've had worse. We have. I mean, to be fair, we've got I'd say we've got 4 decent games out of 6. Only 2, Top Gun and Sporting Triangles were god awful. I think the rest were all decent at the very least. So that's not bad. Yeah, that's it. What we got coming up next week? Next week we round out December. So This is it. The final week for December is next week.
This is it. Final countdown.
Final that. So we've got Stunt Car Racer.
Ooh.
Action Fighter. Altered Beast.
Ooh.
Which I've had a look at, and that's not a... Don't make that noise. It's Battle Chess.
Music being weird for that. Battle Chess, okay.
Battle Chess, which will... we'll get to that. Spitfire.
Okay.
That one. We've got the C64 version of Kickoff.
Okay.
And finally, rounding out the year, we have Myth.
Okay, right.
Interesting one to get into. So that rounds out the year. Following on from that, on the following week, we will have, obviously, the 1989 Golden Bread Bin Awards.
They are coming.
They are. We've got to put our awards hats on and think about what's best. Best game, best graphics, best visuals, best sound, worst.
Oh God, here we go again.
What's the worst? I think the best one's going to be an interesting category because I think there's been in some really interesting games this year.
There has. When they've been good, they've been really good, and I can already know at least one game that's definitely going to be in that list. At least for me, anyway. I can think
of sort of 3 or 4. I think that will be up for a shout. Will be interesting to get to. I can think of about 20 or 30 in the worst game category.
Yeah, worst game. License Catastrophe. They're going to be hotly
Crapcade conversion.
Crapcade. There's going to be some hotly contested bloody games in there.
Yeah. But that's not next week. That'll be the week after where we will have that. So, should be good. If you want to get in on that, we're getting feedback from our patrons right now. So if you want to join in and get in our Patreon, you can join in on these awards. You can do that by signing up at patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. So if you want to join up,
you can.
Price for sandwich, pint of a beer. It's not much, and you can get in on all the action. We welcome all the votes and whatever you want to do, so that's all cool. You go there. You can also send us a coffee if you want at ko-fi.com/Zapped to the Past. That's cool too. Alternatively, just give us a shout out on Twitter or Facebook. We appreciate all that, or ratings, reviews, whatever they do, but it's all good. I'd like to say I'm glad to be back. It's been 4 weeks since we recorded something. It's felt good to be recording again. So I've enjoyed myself, so that's always good. And that's it from me. Graham, you got anything you want to add about this week or next week or anything in general? No. Other than we're rapidly approaching the end of December, it's going to be interesting to see with the Bread Bin Awards who wins the crappiest ocean game. So not sure who's going to win that. It's going to be a tough one, that's for sure. All right. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. I think we're done for this week. As ever, I have been Adrian Mills. And I have been Graham Raddings. And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past. And we will see you again next week where we finish the year for 1989. So see you then. Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.